We welcome you all here today. This is our 1:30 meeting of the Weber County Commission, our work meeting. First item on the agenda is a request for formally dedicate the Bybee Drive within the Cedar Cove Estates. Sean, you're listed first, but Scott, are you the one that's making the presentation?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna let Scott first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Today.
so commissioners, we had a request
You've handed us all out a chart here.
from Cedar Cove Estates, it's a subdivision kind of in the Unna Highlands area. You'll see in your packet here, they have some roadway along Bybee Drive that was originally platted as a private drive to service that subdivision. That drive is now connected all the way back around, and it kind of serves as a bit of a thoroughfare for the area. And the HOA has inquired about the possibility or the interest of the county to potentially convert that from a public road, or sorry, a private road to a public road. What we've seen in this neighborhood is they've had an HOA managing it, over time since it was originally platted. But the private nature of it has since changed, and they're interested in potentially dedicating that over to the county. So this is kind of a first look at it. We're just bringing it to your attention. We've had the engineering department go do a site visit, and Gary's put together a couple of bullet points of things we would like to consider before potentially entertaining the dedication to the county. On that front of your packet, you'll see that Joe Hadley with our roads crew has also chimed in on that. We got a couple of items that if the county is interested, we'd want to have addressed before we would accept the road or entertain.
So this hairpin turn right there, that's the where we went out and have just recently
That's right.
asphalted that.
Added some drainage,
Right.
overlaid it, basically.
We weren't really excited about that because it's a little steeper than we normally want to do, but we did it anyway because we didn't want to put millions of dollars into that.
Yeah, it just wasn't, there wasn't a way to flatten those slopes out any more
Right.
than what they currently were, and so we.
So
made the
we've
best of it.
is the drainage working on that now the way you'd
Working
hope?
great,
Is it?
working great.
Are
There's-
homeowners in that area happy with it? You're not a homeowner up there, huh?
Not that area.
Okay.
Well, if we haven't heard anything, I'm thinking.
Yeah, no news is good news.
Charlie, what's his name?
I live in Cedar Cove, which is right below that. My property is actually adjacent to where you.
What's your
fixed
name?
that Michael Whitehouse.
Michael, glad to meet you.
Thanks, sir.
Yeah,
Good to meet
Michael's
you
here with
too.
the HOA representing
Yeah.
that neighborhood.
Are you the president of the HOA?
No, sir, I'm not.
Okay.
They asked me just to represent them and find out if this could be a possibility or not.
Hold on, let me interrupt. So could you introduce yourself? Tell us who you represent?
I'm Rick Walton. I represent myself, just here of my own interest.
Where do you live, Rick?
I live in Eden.
Oh, okay. All right. So you don't have a direct connection to this we're talking about now.
White
No,
House.
I'm just
Okay, that's fine.
getting acquainted.
You bet. And you're welcome here. All right. So Michael, could you go ahead?
I believe, well, I know Susie and she lives on that road. She has that hair turn
Mhm.
switchback that you guys fixed, and anybody that travels down through there does appreciate what you did, and it is, they like it.
Hi, Joe.
But it has created, an easy thoroughfare for traffic to use that road a lot now, so now everybody is coming through our neighborhood.
Oh,
It's
I
increased
tell
the
you.
traffic through there greatly.
We got a meeting with a group next week. So exactly the same thing.
So commissioners, everything you see in pink on that second page is that stretch of roadway that would be included in this particular request. There's the county boundary, well, I should say the municipal boundary is right on that dash line. So unincorporated begins just to the east of it and then runs eastward.
On the dash line.
Yeah, so on your second page, you'll see in pink, it's kind of hard to see, there's a dash line right here that kind of goes right on the
Oh,
west
I
side
see,
of the
yeah.
boundary.
Okay.
That's where the city limits ends and the unincorporated area begins. And then unincorporated runs east from there.
So this doesn't really change anything there.
No, it'd simply just be handing the road over to us as a public road instead of a private road. Gary, do you want to talk to your bullet points?
Yeah,
On that first page, commissioners.
Before
Yeah.
you do that, Gary, can I jump in real quick?
please, you bet.
So commissioners, when we had the discussion about improving Bybee Drive previously, it was noted on the Spring Creek Estates subdivision plat that at such time as Bybee Drive was extended to the Uinta town boundary, it was intended to become a public road. So that happened when Cedar Cove was put in, that connection took place. So now we do have Bybee Drive that goes all the way through. So there is something that tells us that this was planned for in the future. Now it's at what level is the road and what do we need to do to bring it up to a public standard if you're going to take it?
Right. Hey, Gary, go ahead. Tell
So-
us what you wrote.
So I took a walk through on the subdivision, took a look at how things are functioning since it was built. Couple of things I saw that kind of, I don't want to say concerned me but that I caught right off the top. There's 2 storm drain detention basins in this subdivision. One of them is on the south end of the cul-de-sac there that's labeled as 2850 on your map. And it's actually incorporated as part of that lot that's kind of a flag lot type situation there at the very, very south end of that cul-de-sac. It actually, the lot doesn't front the cul-de-sac, but it's kind of down there tucked into the
It
corner.
doesn't even look like there's any access to it.
So, correct, Commissioner. The owner has kind of, I probably should have printed off some pictures and brought them with me to help demonstrate. it a little
Go to
bit.
your third
I can't
page.
tell, it's one of these
It's
two
that one.
flags.
Oh, that one.
It's
Oh,
that
it's
very,
this
very
one here.
bottom south one, Commissioner Harvey, that it actually has frontage against Union Pacific.
Oh, this is the
property.
one next to, sorry, is this the one next to Rick?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
doesn't even look like
Rick
there's
Shaw-
access
Rick
to that.
Shaw.
Yes, sir, Rick Shaw.
That's the access that they use through, there's a little road right here.
comes out along the front of the toe.
There's a little road right here that comes up and then you can see right here, there's a road that goes up.
Yeah,
And this road takes you up to the U. That's how they get
Yeah.
to the U.
yeah.
It's just a little, if it's 8 feet wide, it's something.
Yeah,
If it's that big.
Fire access. road.
Yeah, it's-
Fire access
that's a
road's a
great
good way to put it.
But the fire
appears-
department comes out and trains on it quite
It
often.
appears legally, there's no access to that lot.
Look at the next
Look on
page.
your-
I was gonna say, we probably want to look at the plat, because the plat shows kind of it shows, first of all, a drainage easement. But then it refers to that fault line easement Commissioner Harvey was pointing to, that where that road exists that goes up to the view up there on the mountain. But particularly, I kind of want to call your attention
Oh,
to
so
that,
it does.
that detention basin easement.
It shows a 15-foot drainage easement to the detention basin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so there is one there.
there is one. So some of my comments are referring to that detention basin drainage easement. From what I could tell, and I obviously didn't have any survey equipment with me when I was out there looking at it, but it appears that some material has kind of been pushed into what would be the detention basin easement is outlined on this plat. And then over there to the west, oh,
Go right back to your statement.
yeah, well,
It appears,
The
say
other
that
one-
again, it appears that some material has been pushed in.
correct.
Somebody's dumped some junk.
Somebody's kind of brought
Into the
material in.
basin?
Yeah, they brought material in to kind of flatten out, level off the lot.
I can speak to that.
And tell me your name again.
Michael Whitehouse.
I'm sorry, Michael.
That's-
I'm really
that's fine.
bad with
Oh, I am
names.
too.
I
So Michael, can you
apologize.
speak to that?
Rick and then also Lance. Lance owns the lot on the other side of
Lance.
it. That's 28A. I can't think of his last name right now.
Okay.
But he owns, he built a house further, but he owns this lot as well.
29
Be-
and 28.
Yeah, between Rick and Lance, they brought material in and dumped it and they've built up and
Around the basin.
I don't know specifically around the basin, but I know they have brought material in and they've dumped it over there and changed the
So-
grade of that land from originally when it was
Right.
there.
Is there a fence between the two lots?
No, there's not.
Okay, so they've just kind of encroached a little.
Yeah, and look, the reality of it is, I'm not trying to point a finger of shame at these guys, but where I'm
No.
coming from is, from the county's perspective in regards to storm drain, there's certain capacities that was designed for. And I would like to make sure that a survey is done to show that they haven't pushed in and encroached beyond what their rights
Yeah,
are.
I
as
think that'd be
property owners.
appropriate.
Yeah, I agree.
The
You
other-
don't know whether that drainage would work right now because of the other
Until they put in.
That's right, Commissioner. I mean, the reality of it is, if we have a significant storm event,
Yeah.
it was sized to accommodate that. And if they've shrunk it down by filling it in,
Yeah.
we need to recover that.
I agree with that.
The material
I get
they
that.
use to put in, the slopes that go from where they've leveled it off down into it is a little steeper than generally what we like to see. We usually look for about 2 or 3 to 1 on a slope, and right now it's 1 to 1 might be a little generous. It's pretty steep going down into there.
So they probably filled that up to increase the size of the lot they have.
Absolutely, absolutely. And
Yeah.
again, not negatively speaking, they're trying to, capitalize on their best interest
Sure.
and make it work.
Understand.
I just want to
They're
preserve
doing it
our
on somebody
interest
else's
from the storm
property.
drain.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Who owns that lot?
I don't recall the name.
Which
It's
one?
between Rick Shock and Lance.
It
They
can never
own
be
both
built.
sides of it.
Okay, it can never be built on because it's a retainage basin, correct?
The basin portion could not, Commissioner. However, there is a portion of it that's
Oh, on the
labeled as
top.
lot 28.
Oh, actually, Lance.
Oh, yeah, so that actually shows that's part of the other guy's lot.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just an easement
Yeah.
that creates the basin, so he's got the right to go right to it, as long as he doesn't cover that basin.
As long as he doesn't fill it in.
That's his property.
Gotta keep it.
Which
There's already
piece
a
are
house
you
built.
talking about?
Pardon?
Yeah,
There's already right here?
Yeah. yeah, they have a
Right
house
there?
built.
Yeah, but turn around, go to the other one behind this.
I'm looking at this one.
Yeah, but look at that one.
So
See that?
what they
Yeah.
did was they divided this lot into two, so it doesn't look like they filed a subdivision plat to do. And now you got a house on that lot there, and that lot is
That
vacant,
lot's
but that's
actually
not a
been subdivided.
developable lot. 'cause it's not
Yeah, that's,
subdivided.
that was
Well-
I knew that.
Hold on, Charlie, it's not a lot. If you
This
look
one,
at it, it's an easement, so that is part of that lot.
So coming back up into here, Commissioner
Yeah.
Jenkins,
I see what it shows here, but I'm telling you, that's not what that shows right there.
That's
I'm
different.
looking at the,
That's right.
Subdivision lot. There was a 4th amendment to the subdivision that created that lot.
with an alternative.
So it's got it,
Must have been.
the lot's right here like this. There's a line that goes just like
We're
this.
not looking at the final amendment.
Yeah.
They divided these two
That one
off,
is not.
but this
Oh,
is an
this is the third
undevelopable lot.
amendment.
That's what they're charging.
Well, that's what Charlie said, but that's not what Sean said.
Yeah, these guys just mentioned that there was another.
There was a 4th.
So you're not looking at the final plat.
There's one more lot that is divided.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that's an easement.
So only
That's
4.
still, this lot goes all the way through, and this is just an easement on the back of it.
Well, you look over here, there's a 50-foot easement over here too.
Well, there's an easement coming into it on that
Yeah.
side too.
That happened in
What does the
Oh, there it is.
amendment say?
2016. It just divided that lot into two. So
Oh,
that-
so it is divided. Oh,
yeah,
there we go.
there's a detention basin easement on lot 34.
Okay, yeah.
See how the slopes back
Yeah,
out
I
this
do.
way, there's the river.
So it is a big legal lot then.
It is.
Yeah, okay.
So
So what's that lot called?
it's called 28A.
This
No,
one's
no,
lot
it says
34.
lot 34.
Oh.
They gave it a new number.
Oh, they
33,
did. Okay.
34.
And you're saying the lot south of 34 is a developable lot?
No, he's saying this is an easement, but 34 is a developable lot now.
Oh, that's what, so it's the top part of this.
Right.
Right here, that's what I've got.
This is the 3rd.
So as long as they're putting stuff up here and it doesn't slough down into this is the retainage basin right here.
Oh,
right?
so that's a great big flag lot now.
Yeah, looks like it.
Well, it looks like it's got a 20-foot road on the side. See that arm right there?
Yep.
So in regards to that basin,
And we allowed that, huh?
we allowed the material?
No, we allowed that
Flag lot.
flag lot like that. That's allowable in the county.
Yes.
Okay.
So in regards to that basin, they basically extended that pipe. And that's the other thing, the way the pipe comes into that basin, I'm not entirely sure it's still in the easement. That's probably pretty easily solvable.
You mean there's kind of a storm water or better still, probably a spring, some kind of a spring pipe or something that in that?
Yeah, there's always some drainage coming down there.
Oh,
and
that hill's
so-
full of water.
Yeah, it does. And so it's absolutely necessary and it's good it's there. I just want to make sure that we have enough easement over the top of that pipe if we ever need to access it and maintain it. Now, the work was done by the landowner. So whenever anybody does any work in the county, especially in regards to storm drain, I request that a video inspection be done. So that's one of the things I would request is so that we can maintain that it was put together correctly and it was, there's no rolled gaskets or anything at the joints, make sure the pipe itself, the integrity of the pipe is okay. And sometimes when they backfill, you can get some collapsing of the pipe as it's backfilled over the top of.
Well, depends what pipe it is.
That's
If it's a
exactly right.
Cement pipe. it's
Well,
not gonna
concrete,
last.
you don't see that, but this is plastic pipe that they
Oh, yeah.
use to install it,
This is
which,
for it.
so, the other thing too, the way the pipe was installed, there's about a 3-foot drop from the flow line of the pipe down to the basin. The reason that concerns me is this material of the hillside is incredibly sandy and really erodible. So I would request that they do something to resolve that. I have my own suggestions on what it could be. But my
Well, you're the
preference-
engineer. Shouldn't you be making those?
I'd be happy to. So there's a couple ways. I'd hate to see him have to go back and relay the pipe. Ideally, it'd be better to have the pipe enter that basin at the flow line of the basin. That's what we would have required. But where they did the work themselves, I could live with a box being installed there that the pipe dumps into. That's probably cheaper and easier than.
So it
relaying
won't
the
roll
pipe.
away.
Yeah, because just that sand is just so incredibly, we've all heard the parody of Wise Man building his house on the sand.
Yeah, can you get a great big stone and put in there for that water and hit the stone?
You could, but the problem is it hits that stone and splashes, it can still erode. And you never know if it's gonna be a little bit of flow where you put that stone or whether it's gonna be a lot where it's gushing out of it.
I'm just sitting there thinking about a box. Normally you put a box in with 3 or 4 outlets out of it. Well, the sand will sit in that box and will build up in the bottom until it
Over
hits the
time.
flow line.
Yeah,
Will eventually fill those outlets up. I don't know.
it could. And that was another one of my comments. The way those slopes are, I'd like to see something to.
Gary, did Mrs. Meyer hit you? I just noticed you got a whopper over your left eye. Somebody
I
whacked
talked,
you.
I talked back to her.
Yeah.
You got in trouble. No, I went over the handlebars on a bike.
Did ya?
Yeah, yeah.
Dude, I
That's
thought
all
you
right.
were smart of that.
I don't bounce
You
like.
don't,
You
you
will.
can't grab that right lever that tight. You have to, if you're gonna use
It
it,
was,
you feather it.
it was that or run over one of the young men I was on a ride with, so.
Oh, well, you did
So,
the right thing then.
Yeah,
Sacrifice your body.
tuck and roll, right? So yeah, I mean, my preference would be to relay that pipe. If they're willing to do that, that's the best situation.
Well, Bud, figure that out,
Yeah.
because I'm not sure any of us are opinionated about it.
I'm open to some suggestions, but I'd like to work with them on how they deal with this.
Well, so I do have an opinion, which is if it's something that we'd have to go in and replace with county dollars, if and when we accept it, and I'm not saying I'm ready to take that vote yet.
Yeah.
But I don't want 3 years down the road or 4 years down the road, so I want it corrected now
Correct,
to our standards.
correct.
If it's not to our standards, then,
Yeah.
as far as I'm concerned, they're still on the hook for it.
Yeah,
And I'm
and
tired of paying for this infrastructure that we take something on that later comes back to us.
you're right, Commissioner. And so the ideal situation, like I say, would be to relay it.
So
where it comes in at the.
It's gotta be
front line.
brought to our standards. I
Yeah,
mean,
gotta be brought to standards. I wouldn't argue that game.
whatever it is.
Okay,
And he was the one who broke the lot off, made another lot out of it.
that's right,
And he's the one who's doing this.
that's right.
And he should have got a permit to do it.
He should have, I would have
Which, if
preferred,
he had, we would have told him.
yeah, we would have talked with him. and
Yeah,
went
at
through
the
this.
time, what he
Yeah,
had to do.
Sure, sure. So that's the first detention basin that concerns me. There's
Right.
another one to the west of there.
Okay.
And in the.
To the
exhibit-
west or the east?
To the west. In the exhibit you're looking at,
The east is uphill.
lot 32A
Got
is
it.
the west one on the south side of the road.
Okay.
Directly west of that. you
Detention
can see
basin easement.
Another, yeah, that's right, Commissioner, another detention basin easement.
Huh.
Now, this particular homeowner, again, to their credit, is trying to make the best of a tough situation for their driveway. They have pushed some retaining walls from the roadway edge south into that detention basin.
Mathis.
Yeah,
Some walls?
some
concrete?
walls. Have you seen those concrete blocks that look kind of like a Lego?
Yeah.
They built some retaining walls out of those that step into that basin, both from the north side of the basin as well as from the east side adjacent to the home.
Hmm.
So I'm concerned that they've kind of encroached into the capacity of that basin as
Have
well.
they done that so they have more surface area?
They tried to build a driveway
Yeah,
Yeah.
into there.
So the way the home was originally built, it sits low enough off the road to come straight off the road into the house was a really, really steep driveway. So they went west of it and they kind of stepped in a road at a flatter slope.
Gary,
Down to
you
the
can
driveway.
see it there on the screen now.
Yeah,
Where is it?
Right here.
yeah, thanks, Scott.
Okay.
So they've tried to access it from the west there to flatten out that slope and, you know, I understand the concern of a slope, with a steep driveway and snow and winter we get, but not at the expense of the whole subdivision as a whole, because what they don't understand is this detention basin takes water from the western edge where this subdivision butts up against Uinta City. So
Now,
everything from the west drains down the
is there a
road.
pipe into that one too?
Yeah.
Is there what, have you ever seen, excuse me, Mr. Chair,
Okay,
has there ever been any water coming out of those pipes that you've seen?
So on certain storms, yes, Commissioner, I have.
On certain storms, you've seen water coming out of those pipes.
Uh-huh.
So just, sir, have you seen any water coming, do you know?
No, I've never noticed. it.
The only reason I'm saying, Mr. Chair, is that thing is all rock and sand over there.
Yeah.
It's all, I can't believe there's any water come out of there.
I've never seen any standing water anywhere in that entire.
That thing, that
subdivision.
hill is just all sand.
And it's all
rock.
downhill.
It's a valid-
Everything's downhill.
Yeah.
It's a
It
valid
just
point.
goes into the river and keeps on
well,
going.
Gary, it appears to me
Yeah, I believe that.
that, he's on the high side of that pond. And I don't see where he's, let me go over here. I don't see where he's hurt anything here
Google Maps.
by doing that.
Is there a better image?
You see what I mean? He's on the high side right there.
Correct.
This is all lower. And so I understand what he's done, but I don't know. I mean, there's no question, he's encroached on,
Sure.
but minimally. I don't see. Joe, have you been up there and walked that?
So there's a couple things going on, Commissioner. One of the things I was gonna suggest, I didn't get a chance to finish. If they wanna do some calculations and show me the size of that pond still meets what it needs to, I'm open to entertaining. I agree with what Commissioner Harvey said. This particular area is very sandy. Water perks like crazy. Okay, so I wouldn't argue with that at all. And once it gets into here, the pond it is possible it could have been oversized. I just want to make sure that what is left has enough capacity for what we need.
Well, it looks like he's put a retaining something here and a little retaining something there.
Yeah,
You can see what we put in on Google Earth, actually Street View. You can see exactly what he put in.
they're completely separate.
He's actually doing the construction while the streetcar drove by.
The other thing, sorry.
So I'm trying to get there for you.
No, I appreciate it, Scott.
Okay.
Thank you. Fantastic.
Here we go.
The original curb cut for the driveway is still there. That's the other thing that I would suggest is when he created the new driveway, he cut the curb and added a new access. That original curb cut puts him at risk of another storm event flooding out his home and his garage. It'd probably be in the best interest to repair that. Yeah, there you go. There's the blocks I was talking about.
Those are nice blocks.
They're great.
They are.
Yeah, they do. a good
Gosh, I
job.
wish I had some of those.
They do a good job. But, and you can see how by adding that extra length, he's flattened out the slope of that driveway going down to the garage.
There is, sure. Who's
Yeah.
running this? Scott, is there any way you can show us any of this?
You go down the street and look up the street here.
Okay, oh, yeah.
There you go. Maybe.
Yeah, so you can see here.
How he's put
He
those
just set
blocks.
those things across.
Yeah.
So you don't think this dirt existed originally?
No, I know it didn't. I know it didn't. So if, Scott, if you,
They probably
The
put
reason
their,
I question that. The reason I question that, you can see they're putting it in today, this picture, and yet there's grass right here.
so to your question,
Uh-huh,
when the home was built,
uh-huh.
did their
I
driveway
think the
come
intent of the
down?
driveway, judging by the curb cuts that exist
Yeah,
where those
just
blocks
go
are,
straight down
go
in.
straight down in. Now, over time, this home has been through a few different owners. And so they've added on a little bit here and there. Each homeowner's done their own version.
I can see that makes some walls here.
Yeah.
So does he does this guy own above this, or this guy owns to where the wall is? I'm assuming this guy owns to where the wall is. Does he look like he's done that?
Do you still have?
I'll bet that, look at that fence there, that white fence might depict the line.
Here's their property line right here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, look how,
Close that box there, Scott.
Look that, close that off, there's Matt.
And you can see.
yeah,
the
look how
fence.
close that is right there. So it does go
No,
right
hold on.
onto that wall.
It's off just a little.
It's off just a little bit.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, but so close.
No, the survey, mine, some of them can be 15 feet. can't
Well,
they,
yeah, but
Charlie?
the point is here, you can see what the intention is here.
Sure.
This guy's brought that out to his property.
Better be 15 feet or more. Yeah.
He's
some of
better
them are
meet
like
their-
that.
Yeah, there's-
Side yard or rear
Yeah,
yard.
there's
there.
an offset
There's
there.
the line there, see how much that's there.
Yeah, you're right, Gage. That wouldn't meet the back, the side set.
No,
That's why that's gotta come over, goes over
Yeah.
8 feet or so.
I see right there.
Yeah.
Difference between there and
There
there.
you
You
That's
can
it,
see their
Scott.
little fence right here.
That's it,
probably
yeah.
their line.
So it's probably, if you click on a different layer, you hit, survey layer, you might get a different one.
Like he was pulling all the way over here at that wall. He's taking a property that this guy owns. Yeah. So it looks like it.
Could be.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about you two. I don't have a big issue here with this.
My comments in the email are all,
Yeah.
they're not huge issues, right? They're not big
As long as
issues,
they bring
but they
them
would
up.
take just a little bit of attention to address.
So the two things that you would like us to address are the south drainage and this west drainage.
Yeah,
The two that you pointed out. There's nothing else that you
Well,
see you think needs to be addressed?
there's one other, there's a couple pieces of curb and gutter that are pretty
Yeah,
cracked.
ask
beat
Joe
up.
about
There's
it.
one that's sunken that I.
By the mailbox?
Yeah, you've probably seen it. haven't
Yeah,
you?
I
Kind
know
of
the
right
neighborhood
in,
pretty
right in
good.
this area. At first I thought it was a catch basin.
Yeah.
And then as I got up there looking, I'm like, oh, crap, what happened to our curb and gutter here?
Yeah,
Right?
there's a little
So-
section of road.
So,
that's drained,
so
right?
I would request that we go through it together, look at the curb and gutter, and if there's something that needs to be repaired, you guys repair it, bring it up to our standards, what it should be.
Mhm.
We're good with that.
So, the HOA is making an official petition to us to take the road over.
Yes, sir.
Do they understand they need to?
We
bring that
haven't
to
started the
standard?
petition yet or done anything.
We don't have a
Scott's gonna help
formal
us through the
application
process.
Sure.
We're trying to find out the process and make sure it's something that you guys will do, and then we'll
So Gary,
address that.
in your comments here, what are you telling us? Just go through these real quick. Is there
So-
anything here that jumps out at us?
No, they're all fairly kind of what we discussed. First
Okay.
comments about the basin. The second one's about the other basin. The third's back to the first one about the slopes of the embankment going down into it. The fourth comment's about the elevation difference of the flow line of the pipe versus the basin.
Right.
5 is, like I mentioned, we request that all the storm drain be cambered, because not just what was installed into that first basin, but we didn't inspect any of it, right? Because it was private. right?
So when Ed Green developed the lot, you guys, he had a permit.
It was all,
You didn't do any of the
we didn't do
inspection?
any inspection that
Hold
we
on.
would request.
Yeah, and I've seen his subcontractors. Now, I definitely want those cameras.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I'm with all
No,
due
I-
respect, I've seen some of the others,
Yeah.
and some of his subs were just, not, Ed's a good guy, but some of his
That's a great
subs,
guy.
Ed's a great guy.
but there's, some of his subs suck.
And,
They're horrible.
It's understandable.
and Commissioner, we would request that of any developer in the county. When a development goes in, we
Be
request
careful what you
those
say.
storm drains. to
All right,
camber.
I'll
Yeah.
back it
So,
up.
so the same would apply to not just one in the basin, but all of the storm drains in the subdivision. Number 6, the basin off the cul-de-sac, when they've done that, there was a lot of debris, vegetation, stuff that they had just kind of piled down in there.
This is one of the areas that when we had the fire, that we put a trash can down in there and all the neighbors participated. You know, we've helped this area quite a bit.
Yeah. I'm just requesting that they
For
clean that
people.
up so that that can't flow down in and plug anything. And then number 7 was my comment about the curb and gutter. Just want to make sure that it's inspected. I'd be happy to do a ride along with you or anybody else from the HOA that we could look at it and talk about it. And I can argue why it needs to be replaced or not. Bill, you mentioned.
What about Joe's chip seal?
I was just gonna say, Joe also made the comment at the top of the email that the road would need to be crack sealed and chip sealed.
Crack and chipped.
I'm good with that. If that, Joe's been there and seen it. With what you've said, Gary.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, and with Joe having been up there, I'm good with those things.
What about you, Gage?
Well, to me, this is no different than approving a new subdivision.
That's right.
I'm not gonna approve anything. I mean, if this was a new subdivision and they came to us and said, you know, we want to do this halfway with the county taking responsibility 4 or 5 years from now, I'm a no vote. But if it's brought to standards, then I'm okay.
Yeah.
But I want, you know, I want Gary to sign off on it and Joe, but I'm not prepared to approve something and then 2 years or 3 years from now, have to go in there and fix drains or pave roads, put curb and gutter in. This is a new subdivision. So they ought to be treated as a new subdivision, which means it should be brought to standard.
Well, I think, wouldn't the camera, with all due respect, wouldn't the cameraing show us, and with those sandy soils, that it'd show us any
Yeah,
points
yeah.
that come apart? Yeah, I'm
It
good,
gives you-
I'm good with
But
that.
before we, if this is a new subdivision, we'd require that those be cambered and they'd be workable, right?
Inspected,
So
yeah.
I don't, why would this be any different?
I'm on the, we're on the same team.
Really? I'm just looking after the taxpayer dollars.
Gary, would you require a deferral agreement for sidewalk? There's no sidewalk anywhere along Bybee, looks like.
That is one point I forgot to discuss.
We do
with you
have
guys.
curb
I was gonna ask you about the sidewalk.
Interestingly enough, at a lot of the,
Is a new subdivision, would we require sidewalk?
Yeah, or a
Yeah.
deferral agreement for it.
or deferral.
And
So-
deferral.
The entrance to that cul-de-sac has curb cuts where a ped ramp would be on each side of it. But a sidewalk and a ped ramp was never installed. So the door's cracked open for it. It's just whether or not we decide we need it in this area.
There's nobody around us with sidewalks.
That's the point, right?
Nobody out there has sidewalks.
But that's where the deferral comes in. Because basically what it does is each of the homeowners would sign that, saying that when the point comes, we decide we need sidewalk, the homeowner is responsible for the value of the sidewalk in front of their frontage.
And I'd be okay with the deferral.
They're very common. We do them all. the time.
Okay.
Whenever it gets there, it gets there.
The reality of it is it may never come.
I kind of doubt it will ever come. These roads work nicely without sidewalks.
Yeah.
All right, so basically, we're giving them thumbs up to continue on.
Yeah.
Based on the fact that everything will be brought to our standard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anybody got any questions to that?
I appreciate the team. They've done a nice job getting ahead of it.
Appreciate you looking at it.
Joe, you got anything you'd like to say on this? No. You're kind of on the ground floor here.
Don't your guys, have you guys been plowing it, that little piece of it?
We plowed it this previous one.
Yeah, no, we did, and the homeowners association hasn't been giving us money to plow that little piece of it, have we? We've just done that from the, wow.
Goodness, you are.
Since you just built the road above, now your plow has to have somewhere to turn around. Because it can't stop at that road and back up. So it comes into our
We're gonna
neighborhood.
close that
turns
road.
around and
We
then
were
goes
gonna
back
close
up the
it for
hill.
winter.
Well, and the reality
That's an
is
option.
that road provides a valuable connection for everybody.
Yeah, we get that.
There is some benefit there.
All right, did we ever have a gate on the road? Seems like we had a gate on it one time. No?
No,
So
we
even when it was
discussed,
gravel, we plowed it.
We never plowed it, no.
Oh,
We just put a sign that says no wind and maintenance.
No winter, right?
that's what it was.
Didn't have a gate.
Yeah.
we discussed a gate, but decided against it.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah. All right, well, sounds like, you know where you have to go and we'll be positive when it comes to
Yeah.
it. Great, thank you. We
Thank you,
appreciate
sir.
you coming in.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
one more
Appreciate your
thing,
time.
on the map, whoever's got the map, can you go a little bit further east on that map to the other, it's not really a cul-de-sac right there. Yeah, up a little, those two which one's Conley down there?
Conley? I don't know that last name.
Go to
A
the
little
east.
further east. Now you did it.
I know
So
first names better than I do last names. but I don't know the Conley last name doesn't
Yeah,
sound
it's super
familiar.
hard there.
Who are you? Conley or
I can look this up, guys, I'm
are you
sorry.
looking for Charlie Carlson?
No,
No.
Conley. Right in there, you're right in the area, that's too high.
Maybe south
Go
a
right
little bit
there,
where you
that
just
one,
shot.
down one,
Is
that one,
Mike his first name and
There you go.
Tammy his wife?
that's,
Yeah.
got it, I thought.
Yeah,
that
that's
was
Mike
it.
and Tammy. I know that. No, that's the Conleys right there.
Thank you.
All right, well, I think we're ready to change groups.
Okay.
Thanks, Joe, appreciate it.
Okay.
I think it's the same group.
Is it?
It's not me, I guess.
Well, isn't it John Lewis on this next group?
No, it's a different group.
I think John is on the.
Good luck.
Trappers. Yeah, or not trappers.
Well, we
also-
gotta get Cortland in here.
Oh, let me.
Cortland's on the list.
Easy.
It'll be exciting.
Yeah, I wrote your name down.
Wow. Mr.
Right
Erickson.
there. That's what I tell you.
Eric,
Gentlemen.
I want to, and I do, except for it's.
Sure, yes, costs us some money. Is it snowing right now?
No, but it was earlier.
Good, how you doing?
Hey.
Yeah.
What's that?
We met with
Your
her.
mountains.
Oh, what did they say?
Yeah, let it rain.
So we've got an LOI coming. on,
They didn't talk.
Still up high.
Entire parcel.
We were talking this morning about.
They want to do a week.
Pine View,
Boundary.
all the way to the-
So as far west, they know they want. Okay.
They have it.
Tom, how are you?
So you set up that meeting far west. We just need to see.
George,
Assuming Mayor Centerville would annex.
Yeah.
I hear things about how, I didn't realize there was a town connection. Now we do.
Yeah.
I knew there was. Somebody says, yeah, tells me, we don't have enough water. I'm like,
Where's your time out?
Pretty soon we're gonna get Michigan coming out here.
Hey, it's actually. Good, how you doing? Snake River, it's not too far from the.
Yeah, just trying to come in. Actually just start testing the well.
We
We have a shallow well we put in.
Far west.
Right, they have,
Yeah, it's fancy.
Yeah, we put one in our original plan. Yeah, it's a big well. I'm not quite sure how we're gonna use it yet, but it's there. It's, wet water is valuable. Lots of paper, not much wet.
So what does that do?
Well, especially how high this chair.
Commissioner Jenkins?
So you're just in your basement, you get like a TV? Is it like a Peloton?
Nope, it'd be part of this discussion. You should be up front.
Okay, Gage. Did you guys watch that Kentucky Derby? Did you watch it?
Oh, there, John.
You didn't watch it?
What's that?
What I
You didn't watch that Kentucky Derby?
Oh, I did. That was amazing. How do you get a horse to run that fast from behind?
I did not see it.
That was a comeback for the ages.
Short-term trailer park over there is full, open and doing business. It's half full. I just said, I drove by it over the weekend. It was not half, but it was dang close to half. Half full this morning. Wow.
Where's that?
Mouth of Uinta.
Down
Yeah. That's
on
right
the
by
river?
the Adams Avenue Parkway.
Yeah, that brand new one there that is in Davis County.
It's half full?
Half
Isn't it-
full already.
Isn't it like a KOA?
Well, something like.
Something like that. I don't know what they're calling it, but I was amazed it had that money in it already. It just opened it up, I think, here a few days ago.
Yeah, it wasn't,
Yeah, hadn't
didn't have
been long.
anybody, a week ago, it wasn't open.
Wow.
Mother's Day, there's all those guys, they're gonna get
Take
their
their
trailers
mothers down
out,
there?
take their mothers out, their neighbors on their 1 acre lots are too close, and so they're gonna go down to a KOA. And that
All
money buying
right.
trailer.
Well, we're here at our 2:00 discussion on the Old Snowbasin Road and Highway 89, transferable development rights. Man, I've had multiple discussions on this, and let's start with Mr. Charlie Ewert. You're here. When we left this meeting last week, I was of the opinion that there was sending rights, but nowhere to receive them today. Is that correct?
There is the form-based village code, but that hasn't been applied to any property. So as of
Okay.
right now,
So
no.
the answer would be yes.
Yes.
There's no place to receive them today.
Correct.
Okay,
Except for ADUs.
Accessory dwelling units, that's right.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, that's true. ADUs, we did go that far. So that's where we are today. So what's your opinions? Commissioners, you want to jump into this? You want somebody else to talk? What do you want to happen here?
I want to listen and do a little learning. see what-
Yeah, I'd like to hear what the planning commission, is the planning commission had any input on this?
Not this specific
Not on-
project.
So that's probably my primary interest right now is to say, let's have the planning commission, that's their job, to make recommendations. I'd like to have their input.
This hasn't even had time to go to it yet,
No,
since last week when the offer was made.
you may have to make time.
We can, we do have one parcel that is looking at possibly creating this as a zone. And it's right up around the bend as you go from Old Town Eden into New Town Eden. So that's the only person that's shown interest in rezoning that. Have you aware of any others, Charlie?
No, just from a staff perspective, I think it'd be great if we got into all the parcels that were zoned CV2 in those village areas and rezone them right now, well, not right now, but in the near future to the village zone. That way we don't have to go through the mess of doing a parcel by parcel, so.
Well,
Makes sense.
I'll give you my opinion. I haven't had a chance to think about this weekend. And, I feel a little bit like we're getting the cart before the horse here a little bit. But some wild man out there made the offer. And he's the guy that's thrown all this into a great big hubbubaloo. But, well, he's brought this to a head and in his own way and in our own way, it is time for us to deal with this. And he's not alone out there. We identified 5 or 6 other pieces of property, just like that, without even hardly giving it any thought, that are in the exact same situation here. And we need to make a decision on this. And the reason I believe, first of all, is because Charlie's come up with a number of development rights up there that I think is way too high. I don't think that many exist. That's my first opinion. My second opinion is do these people who have extra properties up there, do they have a right to retain extra development rights once their development agreement has been approved and done? And that exists in lots of properties up there, lots. And so we really need to make that decision, because it's not just, can you transfer a development right to another area or can't you? Because I'm of the opinion that I'm way behind the curve here, that decision's kind of been made and is heading down the line to be approved and put into code. In fact, it's in all code except for one little thing left.
So you're saying we're headed down the path of being able to transfer development? Okay. I don't
So the
disagree with that.
question is, how many rights exist to transfer? Because, well, after my discussion with Charlie the other day, Charlie, I don't want to misrepresent you here, so why don't you take over here? And I'm saying about how many transfer of rights do you believe are up there as far as individual dwellings?
And wait a second, individual dwellings combined. So everything.
Yet to be
Then
built.
you could transfer.
That guy over there and that guy could over
That's
there
right.
and that guy up
Well,
there.
he drew a circle around the whole upper valley and said, this is about what we
You can't
determined.
transfer from clear up there but
Valley floor.
The valley floor.
Okay, great.
The number is 10,000.
Yeah, there you go.
10,000?
Huh?
So there's about 5,000 units that have been built, and the valley floor, just the zoning alone, the valley floor can support about 15,000 at build out.
So 10,000 more.
10,000 more.
That's using the 1 per 3?
One per 3 for most of it, but then you've got some CBR
So you
one,
have
you've got
some
some
CBR1.
FR3. Yep, you've got the numbers in Wolf Creek that are a little bit different than what the Wolf
Right, I
Creek zoning
get it.
actually says. So, yeah, but we ran the full calculation back in 2014.
Wow, that's more than
Yeah. It's a lot.
Hold on, Mr. Chair. Charlie, I heard you say there's about 5,000 there now. Oh, 15,000 totals what you're
10,000
saying.
more.
How do we, okay, sorry, with all due respect, how do we trust that number? That's that 15,000. How do we know that's the total?
So what I did
Who,
was,
who said come up with that?
who said come up with it or
No.
who came up with
Who came with it?
it? So that'd be myself and our consultants that did the general plan.
What year was that?
The plan was adopted in 2016, but it was between 2014 and 2015 that these numbers were
Yeah,
calculated.
so that's gotta be an accurate number then. You did it for this general plan.
Mhm.
So
And
I-
so you did that by simply taking the amount
That's
of
it.
property and dividing it by 3.
Yeah, subtracting out 10% for road spaces.
Yeah, so, just that simple.
No, it's not, yeah, it's not
Which
calculus, basic math.
Ironically, in the AB3 zones, 10% is way too much. It's only about
Yeah.
3% for road space is what we usually average in those zones.
Well, so that's where I'm struggling with. And, putting my former developer hat on. If I go in and develop a piece of ground and I've got X number of units I can put on it, and I decide, look, I'm gonna put X minus Y on that. Do I have a right then to keep, if I leave, let's say 2 on the table, do I have a right to transfer those or keep those in my bank account, so to speak? And I guess what, my opinion is that once I've agreed to that plat and I've signed that plat, so I know X number of lots are on there, I've given up that extra density unless there's an agreement with the county that I can hold those over.
So there's a couple ways to look at
So,
this.
does that make, that's kind of where I'm headed.
Well, Charlie,
Think about
I said that to him and he said, well, we actually have a process to do that. So go ahead, Charlie.
We just barely saw it in the conversation we had just a second ago about Bybee Drive. So we have a lot that had frontage just barely at the end of a cul-de-sac.
Right?
Okay, and you had to drive essentially across another lot to get to the back part of that 1 acre lot. Well, the individual who owned it divided it into 2, made a flag lot. So he did get 2 homes out of that 1 acre parcel in a ½ acre zone, right? Where in the beginning, it was only approved for as 1 lot for 1 home, right?
Okay.
So that's possible. People can continue to do it. John makes 13 to 20 acre parcels in a 3 acre zone. Any one of those landowners, if they come to the county today, after John's platted that subdivision, can come and say, I'm gonna stub a cul-de-sac right in here and I'm gonna get 3 or 4 lots out of this 20 acre parcel. I already built my 1. I could get my 3 over here as long as I've got the street frontage to do so. And we do allow flag lots up to 3 acre parcels.
I get it. Yeah.
So there's a possibility. You've got that already locked in, already cooked right into your ordinances. We wouldn't be able to say no. Now, that's one side of it. The other side is what CW Land went through. They went through the rezone and development agreement. The development agreement that you guys adopted limited that to 10 units. They could have gotten 60 something out of it if they had water and sewer. But it said no more than 10 units. And so that was a legislative restriction. It was almost like adopting a new zone and applying it just to that parcel.
I agree.
So there may not be, it's really just a discussion for you guys to figure out, but there might not be units even assigned to that property.
So what ends up happening here, Gage, is after the fact, you can say, well, you have extra development rights that you can transfer, sell off, or somebody could develop a new sewer system that comes in and all of a sudden makes that developable, that it wasn't prior to that.
That's true. That's true.
So those are the odds or the circumstances.
It's a matter of timing. What we're saying right now, because of water and sewer up there, 60 units is probably not possible on that 3 or 4 acres, whatever it is.
Right.
And that was actually approved as a hotel back in the olden days. That's why it had 60 units. But if somebody if somebody wanted to,
Thus he wants to sell his right.
yeah, well, what I'm saying is that he would have the right to say, okay, I'm not gonna take the 10 units. I'm gonna wait until I've got sewer and water to do my 60. Now, that's a matter of if and when ever it happens.
He could have,
But-
but now there's a development agreement that locks it into 10.
That's right. I mean, that, before he signed that development agreement, that was on the table.
That's right.
John, go ahead.
The only thing I would point out is he's restricted now, but it could expire. So I think it really comes down to legally, can you do something with that or not?
Right.
So.
It is a legislative decision.
Right, but if he
So-
just dies and goes away, it comes back.
Yeah, that's, that's
This
true.
one doesn't. So if Todd don't die,
Yeah.
CW don't die.
It's not required. It doesn't go away.
But if that were to happen, the development agreement is written in a way where the development agreement expires after 10 years. However, the use part of that, the use which is no nightly rentals was one of the uses, and no more than 10 residential dwelling units was another one. That prevails in perpetuity as a legislative restriction applied to the property, just like if you adopted a new law. So we created this, it's almost the same way as saying, well, we want to allow that development to be able to get building permits, even though our code says you can't do it with all your infrastructure in.
Yeah.
Well, then we create an agreement, legislatively adopt it. It's creating a brand new rule being applied to the property. Now, the same what's the word? Authority that you guys use to create the development agreement is the same authority you guys have to work with the landowner to adjust that agreement. You just barely made that agreement a few months ago, so
But
it's a good time to.
I do want to point out, so the expiration after 10 years, that's the paragraph where it talks about the use restrictions continuing. There's a separate termination paragraph that says, among other things, if the project is abandoned or the use is discontinued, or if the developer defaults on any portion of this agreement, then the agreement terminates, and that can happen before 10 years. That could happen next year.
So the development agreement terminates.
Yes, and
Then what
does-
happens to the
It
zone?
doesn't say anything in here about the
Well,
use restriction continuing.
That was a mistake.
Yeah, in hindsight, it was an oversight not to address that, because if this development agreement terminates,
Then what?
right?
Yeah, that's my question.
It doesn't specifically say, and we would have to figure that out. I would say right now, it's kind of unclear because it doesn't specifically say the use restriction remains in place. It could be argued that if this development agreement terminates because he defaults or doesn't proceed with the project, then if this is gone, we're left with the rezone with no development agreement, and maybe he has all his rights, all his development rights still there.
See, I would say he has his, if he disappears, his rights are back, they're there. And I would also say that with X amount of dollars, you could expand the sewer and water.
Right.
It's not like they're
Right.
out, it's just it's a financial issue.
Which
So-
the property right across the
I
street,
agree with
the
that.
Snow Basin property, they've got enough to put probably, I don't know, 50 or 60 townhomes over there if they can get sewer and water extended to it.
So if
So
you don't want a village there, you gotta put it somewhere else.
that's right.
No, we can
So-
identify a lot right now, a 15-acre parcel that is in a village that could, take that kind of stuff to do a future village someday.
Mhm.
I don't know why that couldn't just be shifted now legislatively.
Yeah, it can, exactly. So the legislative authority that created all of this.
We've
can-
already done a general plan. We're already identified the villages. Here's your chance to move the density to a village. What's there to create? Planning Commission's already heard that.
And you can clean up the
We all voted
error
on
that's
it.
already in there.
So let me
Good time
tell
to
you
do
my
it.
heartburn on this,
Yeah.
Commissioner Faur and Commissioner Hardy. And that is the value in the property or up in the upper valley. But it's actually everywhere, starting out west now too. They're behind, but just a year or two. The value in the property in large lot has grown so much now that you take a 1/4 acre lot and a 1 acre lot, there used to be just a few $1,000s difference. Well, I would argue now, you take a 1/4 acre lot and multiply it by 4, and that's the value of a 1 acre lot almost. That's what's starting to happen. So I would argue that they've already taken the value of the property out of it. And when they sell it in the 1 acre or whatever, and now we're giving them a development right that they can transfer where they're double dipping. You see what I mean?
Yeah, oh, I get it.
Yeah, and you say, well, come on, you can't prove that. Well, I would argue across the street where they just bought 10 acres, they paid $4 million for it, $400,000 an acre.
Where was that?
The house across the street from this property and just up the road next to the dam where they're building that
Oh.
monster.
Oh, yeah, that 10 acres.
Yeah. And I point to that as an example to say, there you go. 400,000 an acre. So that's where I struggle with this, to let you know.
Yeah, okay.
And I've been thinking about this all weekend long, and I can't come up with a good answer in my mind, because in effect, that's kind of what happened. Now, if I was sitting in your chair, Todd, I'd be arguing the opposite, that by taking you from 13 to 10, which we agreed to, which was the number we could, I'd argue that we actually took 3 away from you if I was in your chair.
I know that's how I look at it.
Yeah.
No, he has a good argument that we took 3 away from him.
Right.
Yeah. No question about it.
Zoning is tough because it either adds value or it devalues. That's for sure. That's one of the reasons why when we're looking at TDRs, we didn't want to pay too much attention to the value and just let the private market do what it's going to do. Let the entrepreneurs figure out how to make a little extra money and let the units start flying. Because if they fly, they'll fly to the village areas and off of the open space.
Yeah, so right now, just so we're correct, any development rights would have to go, based on our current ordinance, would have to go into one of the village areas.
Into a form-based village zone, which
Form-based zone.
we're planning on putting in the village area.
Right, okay.
Because
And that was part of the general plan that was agreed to back in 16.
Yes.
Okay.
we just have the ordinance in place right now in
Right.
Old and Newtown even, but we don't have the zones created.
Right, I get it. No, we had, yeah, we've got the village ordinance. that we
Only in
can-
Old
for the
and
form-based.
Newtown, of the 5 or 6 nodes up there, only in those 2 areas.
Old and Newtown.
Nordic is under review and Wolf Creek is starting.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
So,
go ahead,
you know,
John.
it really does lay out in my head, I think the way I see it is you have a village. You know, if you want it to be affordable and you need density, and if you want to move your density off the valley floor to a village, and it goes to a village, the only way to do that, now that you have density, is you need sewer. And you can't really do sewer with 4 things, you need 40 things. And all of a sudden now you can afford to put in a sewer. And if you don't have double and triple dipping, and, you know, you really need to make some money here, so you can afford to put all that infrastructure in, which is, you know, not a $10,000 septic system, it's a $3 million sewer plant.
That's absolutely right.
So that's,
Yeah,
it
I
all
would
makes
not
sense.
argue that.
If you're gonna have a village, that's how you do it.
And the reason for the village isn't for the sake of putting houses there, it's for the sake of the economic output of shops and commercial opportunities.
That's
In
correct.
fact, John, nothing that you've said or taught, either of you, do I disagree with. The only question I have in this whole thing is your right to sell property and develop and transfer rights off the property at a continuous rate of so much per acre. Because I feel like you guys, I see you guys, that was wrong to do. I feel like any developer that does that, I kind of lumped you guys together, didn't mean to offend you. But any developer that is doing that, I feel like is almost double dipping here, because the value of the property has gone up so much that a larger parcel of property up there is actually very desirable, for they can build a big home on a hillside, and, you know.
I don't see the double dipping part, though.
Yeah, I don't either. I
Right?
mean, the density is a finite commodity. We're not creating more.
No, but what you are, is you're taking 10 acres, let's take a 10-acre parcel just for a round number. And you're just able to sell that 10-acre parcel at a price that is equivalent to 5 2-acre parcels. And then we're allowing you to take those other 4 and transfer them off, when the price you received is really equivalent to what you got on the property.
So the person selling a lot made good money, so good for them, but this is how you get density to move. I don't know how else you shift it.
Well, and that's a good argument. Todd?
Yeah, pretty much what John just said. I mean, you want to get your growth in these village areas. Now, you could just simply zone those areas and have that there. But this gives you also the opportunity to take it away from areas where you don't want that density.
Without taking the value or the financial value of that.
Right.
That person who has the open space now, that's how they put their kids through college, without selling that farm.
Understand, but on the flip side, if I was looking to be negative, I would argue that Todd has reached his capacity on his property, because that's where the sewer is.
Sewer can be changed.
And that's
he
the,
could go in
that's the
tomorrow.
flip argument.
He
Might
can-
take 10 years to do it, but sewer can be changed.
He could sell it to me
See where
tomorrow
I'm
and I can
at?
put it in sewer.
I do.
Yeah, good.
The one thing for me, is I'm just listening and taking all this in. You just talked about 1 acre lots and quarter acre lots and the value used to be just a little bit different. Now it's 4 times. But that's today, and we don't know what tomorrow's gonna bring. But on the flip side, we don't have an established value of a TDR. What is that value? That to me is, so you could say, do they have a value? Right now, to me, they're worth $1, or are they worth 10,000? Well, $100,000.
An offer was just made for 4,000.
I get it.
Okay.
So what that does is that starts to establish, in my mind, I'm just telling you down the road where I'm thinking. In my mind, that starts to set the value, which we've not been able to, we've always said at some time, we'll discuss on how to make a value, a market for it.
Yeah.
Now, we don't know. In my mind, I don't know if $4,000 is fair and equitable. You could be getting burned by $4,000. Or this could be a fire sale. This could be really good. We don't know. But at least an offer has been made. And to me, I like the comment that Todd just made. What that does is it shifts. My question is back to Charlie. He came up with whoever was with him and said there's 10,000 more up there. That's why I'm saying, I don't see 10,000 more in that valley. That's a lot. I'm trying to put that in my mind on how 10,000 more units would be, even if they're only in those village node areas, how 10,000 more would work. Now, that's just my simple thinking. I don't get it, but 10,000 is a lot.
Well, that's not gonna happen in my lifetime, and probably not yours.
Well, but I think in the
Now
next
what-
4 or 5 years, you'll see a little bit of a rush to this.
Well, you'll see some growth, but not 10,000 units.
Well, we know that the
You're
type, and I'm gonna
I mean, that's.
you started off by saying you guys. And so I'm gonna continue that.
Are you one of those you guys?
No, I wish.
Which guys you talking about? Let's be careful.
Yeah. But the one thing that happens that I've watched in my life is most everybody now, when I was a kid, I mowed my own lawn or mowed my father's lawn with the Cooper clipper. Little real powered mower.
Good for you.
We didn't have any of the people that did the lawns, and nobody had a housekeeper or a landscaper, and I didn't ever have a snow blower. I used a shovel. Okay, well, now everybody has a service that has all this stuff, and those people have to have a place to live. And so the type of houses that are being built on some of the larger areas, there's got to be people who service those. And that one guy that lives in a house on 10 acres is probably not the guy that's going to go clean the toilets and dust the mop boards in the house next door as a service. There's got to be a place for people to live. So I think the
Workforce housing you're talking.
I'm talking about some workforce and the restaurants and everything else. I'm thinking about that.
Yeah, but we're here, you just went over there.
That's because I'm thinking about the grandchildren of my grandchildren. I always keep that as a focus where we're headed.
So listen, the reason I come to this is because I was on a planning commission for years. And so that's in my mind, where a building lot is a building lot. And some are quarter acres and some are thirds and some are halves and some are acres. But it's a building lot. And it's whatever the developer decides to make in there and get his money out of. But now they're saying, well, this is all based on 1/3 acre lots. And if I go to acre lots, I reserve 2 other rights there. And it's never been that way in the past.
No, and that's
where I struggle.
well, that's the part
Me
that
and Todd had a big discussion about this the other day, and he admits I'm a little different here because of my thinking.
And Commissioner, when you say it's never been that way in the past, do you mean you've never been able to transfer them?
In the past.
You can develop them in place, though. You've
Sure.
always been able to
Yeah,
develop them.
well, and we just seen that, like you pointed out, on somebody who had the ability to break off a back section.
Yeah.
Their lot, see, it used to be you came in and on a house, you had to have side sets and a back set. And so there was not room for a road to come in and develop the back half of your lot. But if you happen to buy a corner lot, well, then all of a sudden, and it was a 2/3 of an acre, it was a big lot. Geez, you all of a sudden had a back area that was developable by code. You're right, you met all the code, and so you had that.
Okay, sorry, one more thing. So let's go back to your corner. So what you're doing is you've got a house, you build it on the front third of the acre. Now you can make money off the back third of your acre by selling it. Well, if I had 10 acres, couldn't I take the first acre and put the house up there? And couldn't I take the back 9 of those acres and plant that and grow some hay on that and get 3 cuts off it? Or couldn't I take that and put meat goats out there?
What does that mean?
I can make money off my property.
A big deal.
Well,
That
you're
has-
making money off your property if you
No,
sell
no,
off
no.
a third of an acre.
No. These are not comparable. One is the fact you've got agriculture on there. The other is the fact that you take a right and sell it and move it.
Okay.
They are not, these are not,
No, that's different.
yeah, they're
So,
different.
so here's,
I'm talking
with
about
this
making
particular,
money.
let's get back to this issue. So I don't disagree with, what you've been noodling all weekend about, okay, you go with the development plan, you get that approved. Do I have the right to retain what I could have had?
Right.
Did he give that up or did he retain it? What I'm hearing is that we don't know in this particular case,
Yeah, I
in this particular case.
So we've got a present right
Right.
with a potential future reversion, I guess, to what it was
So
before.
the first thing I would say is that let this be a lesson for us that from here going forward, we should make this very clear in a development agreement. And we need to make a legislative decision is, look, that plat that you come in and record is your final plat. If you're entitled to put 60 units on it right now, then put your 60 units on it and or make an agreement that we approve that we're gonna put 20 on it and hold 40 to put into the village area.
And that applies to the upper valley and the lower valley?
Yeah, no, whatever. I just say that, so, but
Wow.
we need to come up with the legislative decision, or we just say, look, whatever your, and I'm not saying what direction we're headed, or we say the opposite, whatever your plat is your plat, and you can't hold anything over. End of story.
So that's actually,
You see what I'm
if you're
saying?
looking at this for upper
Yeah.
and lower, Western Weaver in our last work session, I think just after you guys had stepped out, they said, we want an inventory of all the subdivisions that have been platted. And we don't want them to be able to get the 3rd acre. They're at the 1 acre. That's it.
Okay, and so,
So now you're saying put an exclamation.
so I'm putting next one, so if whatever that plat is, and I'm kind of leaning that way, whatever that plat is that you record should be your plat. And then sell off now, if you want to sell off rights prior to that, get with Charlie and sell them off. But once you've recorded that plat, should be kind of your final.
So your argument then to Charlie is if you have 10 acre lots in there and that gets platted and sold off, there are not a bunch of other rights that continue to exist on that property.
Exactly. And so in other words, before you do that, before you record that plat, go to Charlie and say, look, I can do 30 units here. I want to take 20 of those and sell or transfer those to a village area.
Yeah.
I think, because I think that goes with the general plan. And I think that this is, probably a fairly good policy decision because number one, it starts creating that market that I think we need. And it sets a precedence that, look, let's take density off the valley floor, off the hillside and put in those village areas for a couple of reasons. Number one, infrastructure. We can't have infrastructure. We're not gonna have sewer and water run all across the valley. But you can have it in certain areas, which would be the village areas. And that's to me where the growth has to go.
Okay, so if you go out in West Weaver and you take 1,000 acres and divide those up into 50-acre parcels for ranchettes, well, now you can't afford to run sewer to them because they're so far apart. As you end up changing the whole complexion of the land based on that, and then you allow them to take development rights off that and transfer it. This gets really complicated.
So sewer will get closer and closer to one of those 50 acre to one of those 50 acre parcels, right? And at that point, that'll make it worth it for that guy to then go.
Well,
to.
yeah, but if we do what Gage just said, no.
So yeah, it would
It would
be no
take
in
it
that
away.
case. That's
Well,
right.
no,
Take it
no,
away.
that's the downside.
So do you get, okay, so you can't build you can't subdivide it, but you can put an ADU on it?
Oh, yeah, we've already determined that, the
Yeah.
ADU, but you only get one.
Mhm.
Yeah,
But if you
that's
got
not
a 2 acre
problem.
lot, you're down, or if you got a 3 acre lot, 3 acre lot down here and it's 1 acre minimum, why couldn't you do 2?
A 3 acre?
Uh-huh.
So we only said only one ADU, but if you wanted to allow it, we could say 2 or as many as.
But today,
Right now, it's one.
it's one ADU per
Single
lot,
family.
Yeah, correct.
right?
That's correct.
Todd?
In that situation, so he's divided it all up into 50 acre lots, then away they go. Sewer gets up to it. They want to change, they want to have more. They have to go out and replace those development rights. They have to go on the open market, they have to purchase them and bring them back. And there would have to be an agreement
Yeah.
to basically replace the other agreement that they had with the counties.
Now, is that the assumption that they have already moved the rights off or that we just said?
Yes, that
sorry,
is
no
the
more"?
assumption.
Okay.
The
so they
assumption is
sold
they
the rights.
moved, they transferred it to
So
somebody else.
they recorded the plat, they've lost.
Yeah,
Right, okay.
But the only way they could do that is if they amended the general plan, because the receiving areas are only in the village areas right now.
Yes.
So.
Well,
that's
So we
something-
wouldn't allow Lower Valley to transfer to Upper Valley,
Our general plan doesn't allow that.
right?
Yeah, we could do
But
that.
we'd have to create something out west for Lower Valley to receive it.
Out west, yes.
And you
Yeah,
might be able to do that in this
Well,
revised general plan.
we are kind of
You might
doing
be
that
able to
right
do that.
now.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden, by doing that, we go from a few fourplexes out there to, if we can really allow them to transfer in, good night, you might end up with 30 or 40 units per acre. So now you're high rise out there. Well, that was never intended.
No, that's not.
If we keep it along the 12th Street corridor.
Well,
Only in
wherever,
a certain, only in the certain node or zone.
Right.
Yeah,
Just like in Ogden Valley where it's only in the villages out there, just even only in the corridors or whatever.
well, I think
Yeah,
there's a couple things
I
we
agree.
need to decide here. And I don't know if we can do it to today, but one was the one that Gage just brought up, the fact that can you keep it or can't you? And the other one is there really 10,000 units up there? Because Ogden Cities thinks that per acre, they got a whole lot more than that.
There you go. That's my, see what I'm saying? If you factor that into it or away from it, I mean, there's a number, but, and if we consider Ogden's or you don't, this is a big deal.
Well, so one of the things you gotta kind of discern, and we're getting ready to have this discussion, and I don't think you've even been invited to it yet, John, but you're gonna be. I've got a meeting coming forward where we circled, we started at Eden Elementary, the Valley Elementary, and went all the way to Nordic Valley.
Nordic
and
Valley.
Circled it, and that takes in 5 of the 7 village areas. And that's the realistic area that I believe that we can afford to run a sewer. We've come up roughly, I've come up with about $10 million I think we can corral somehow and put in there. Now, we'll talk about this when we get to our meeting. But we really need to look at that area and say, okay, how many areas can you put in that? Because that will end up being a humongous receiving area. How many of those 5 village zones in there? How much are you gonna be able to receive? Because if we have a whole bunch of transferable development rights up there, and the zones are not big enough to receive them, that will artificially hold the price down. And that's not fair.
Nope.
You see what I mean by doing that? Okay, John?
Rick, maybe you can back me up on this, but, we've, for as long as I can remember, this general plan, you went to a great amount of money with Bear. Who's the consultant who helped on it? Bear River?
Logan Simpson.
Logan Simpson. Okay, so, but they've been saying 15, 16,000 since day one.
Yeah.
We've been hearing that number and we know there's about 5 that's done. So we know there's 10,000 doors. And,
Right.
and by that, I mean, everybody there who's got rights, just how much acres do you have? What's it zoned and what's that density? So unless you're gonna take away their rights, now the game becomes, how do we disperse it? So it doesn't end up in a carpet, because that's what everyone said they didn't want to see was a rooftop seat.
Right.
So in my mind, it's indisputable, there's 10,000, unless you want to change that. You can go back and take away people's rights if you want, but right now they've got 10,000 front doors. So now in my mind, how do we hide it? And, 12 condos, nobody likes condos, but 12 condos looks a lot better than 30 acres of single family homes, according to the general plan.
And
So-
that is the argument of the general plan.
Okay, so regardless of TDRs, if you want to move them to a village, there's 10,000 of them, and you're gonna need 1,000 or two per village, and that's how you're gonna hide them. And the more you do that, the less, or the more spread out everything's gonna look.
So I
Leave it in
would,
place.
there's one other thing that's come into play that wasn't there prior to this. And that is the fact that now the health department is coming through here and saying, gee, considering the study that we just got on the dam, we're not gonna allow that many developments up there.
Well, but if you had sewer, they would.
Well, we don't
So,
right now.
right, but before
And-
people's rights get taken away, they'll.
I'm of the opinion if we took this to a vote, they'd vote it down. So I'd argue that these are paper rights only under that scenario. I don't know, John, you can see where this goes. It gets very complicated.
Almost like a stock certificate then. essentially is
Well,
what you're
almost
saying.
like. But this really comes down to just what you said. I agree with you. Fundamentally, we've come down to this issue. Does it exist or does it not exist? And on what level what makes it so they exist? Right now they did it versed on acreage. We've now had the saturation of the soil come in and the water in the dam has come in. We've got a meeting coming up with the health department to talk about this. Because they do have a number that they think, and it's not 10,000. Although I don't think it's way under that, but they do have a number. And you're right, if we're gonna allow this to start happening, trading today, I believe we need to come up with a number. Now, am I way off on that?
Well, when you say come up with a number, I'm not, I'd never take away somebody's private.
I don't
property.
want to take away anybody's rights.
I mean, if somebody's got it right now, I'm not prepared to go in there and say, look, I had ground up there when we had 1 per 1. County came in and said, I'm taking away 2 of your rights.
That they did say
And
that.
guess what? Land values didn't change that much. It stayed,
Well-
price per acre stayed about the same.
The question I
Now
would
we're
ask
talking.
you, and you will understand this, when you talk about your right, when you have raw ground, your value isn't near as where it is when you have ground that has been developed and has been approved and you can now sell it. And the difference in between that is what a developer takes or a realtor or whoever does the work to get it to that. But there's a process there that
Well,
comes out of it.
but the price of the ground, whether I'm putting hay on it, whether I'm putting homes on it, depends. If I can get 30 units, if I can put 30 buildings on that hay field versus 10, I'm gonna get a lot more money if I can put 30 versus 10.
I would argue, 5 years ago, I would agree with that. I'd argue today, I'm not sure that that's true. And the reason is because the value of 2-acre lots up there has gone up so high. So I'm not sure that's true anymore. It used to be, I agree with that.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I could sell a lot more 1-acre lots up there for 200, 250,000, whatever they are, versus selling a 4-acre lot for $1 million bucks. I mean, there's a lot more in that lower category than the upper category. Now, you bring that 10 acres that
Yeah.
sold for whatever it was, 4 million bucks. There's not that many people coming to the valley that are gonna pay 4 million for a lot. They're not gonna pay $1 million for it.
There's the only guy who can really sell that. It's that guy sitting right down there. Because he's selling some of those $1 million lots.
I'm looking at your layout, that's what Logan Simpson came up with. I mean.
Is this from that original one?
What's the green? Is that
That's what it looked
future?
like.
So green is the ones that have been approved either through a development agreement or by a plat.
Okay.
Red are the ones that exist, and this color this is 1 per 3 acres. Ready, set.
That's 1 per 3.
Yeah. see how- see how the purple they just populated?
in 2016.
Green and red.
So
So
red,
this is the 2016 map. Correct.
yep,
What's this color? What's this do?
that purple, that's 1 unit per 3 acres.
That's future, what could be there.
Oh, that's,
Yeah, that's if you don't cluster it.
That's if
what
you
you're
don't
gonna
cluster
get.
it, that's how it looks.
So you guys came up with TDRs and here we are. It's,
Yeah, as we presented this to the public, that's the main reason why they wanted to look at village areas, because they didn't want all of this density spread out, because they wanted to look at preserving.
now they're
farmland.
mad because we're doing villages, but that's
what
what we all agreed on.
So would you rather have a village or would you rather have that?
Commissioner Jenkins, that's what we showed if you clustered them up in the foothills. So this is the idea of bringing some of the steeper sloped areas where you do still have rights, and you cluster them just on the lower areas, kind of like they did over in Wolf Creek, for example, which that cluster right there is Wolf Creek.
And Charlie, let's just be clear. This is under current zone.
Yes,
This is
what your
no-
current zone.
This is not zoning any additional density. So somebody could go in there right now and put a house everywhere purple is.
Yep.
If they sold it, they had the,
But you start the TDRs up and all those dots start to cluster
Yeah, they start
together.
moving.
And that's what people, they want to look at open space. That's how you do it.
This is where that 10,000 number came from.
well, this
Yes.
is, yeah.
We gotta educate this. And coming from the colorblind guy even,
Sorry.
we need to educate this. This is highly impactful to see it. To see it. We either have this, now do you have the picture where it's clustered? Take all those dots off there and then with put all the 10,000 in the
Different
nodes.
Clusters, no, not yet. but
We gotta
can
have
put
that.
together-
We gotta say it's this or this, which is it?
Okay.
Then teach it
You
and
had
then
that
teach
during the
it.
general plan. So
We did have some examples, yeah.
yeah, you showed
We
it
didn't have it
clustered
quite
and not
this-
clustered. It was horrible.
It's true.
What
Nobody
did
wants
Michaela
that.
say?
No,
She thought we had. Remember?
I don't recall the number.
nobody wants in the village
Did you
area.
meet with Michaela?
But-
No, she's coming.
Coming together.
Tomorrow at
But what
3
you,
o'clock.
yeah,
Tomorrow
like,
through
take a
o'clock.
choice.
Were they on
You
the
asked
invite?
me about.
You were the only one on the invite.
Oh, I,
Put them on.
Okay. Well, I think everybody was on the invite.
Yeah, that's what I
They
thought.
weren't sure who could show up, so, yes.
well, I don't think that's acceptable. That's not what was agreed to with the general plan. That's the exact reason that the village areas were created for that purpose.
well, what I'm hearing, thank you. What I'm hearing is this is the general plan and what could happen. That's what I'm hearing.
This is existing zoning and what.
No, that's existing zoning.
The general plan is intended to try and avoid this.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're
Without
singing out of the
downtime.
same hymn,
Same
but
thing.
just a different part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You might be singing tenor, I'm singing.
Yeah. Close to that.
But those purple ones on the right-hand side of that will all come down the hill into the nodes.
Yep, into the notes.
Into the
All the
village you're
purples.
talking?
All the purple ones on the right.
Well, then, basically, hold on. Basically, we're talking about all the purple, wherever those are gonna go right up here, just
Yep.
right in there.
Yep.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, here and a little bit here.
There's a little bit over here in Nordic
little bit
Valley
here.
and then up in there,
Yep.
right? But right, this is the heart, though, you'll have to.
Yeah.
And
Well,
some over,
not just a little hard, listen. So it's all this and all,
We've already taken that
well, and
purple
stop here. Well, let's stop there because they.
then all this, look at all this.
Right. So the way I felt, we needed to put that circle around
That's
here.
already a cluster.
That's a cluster
That's why
there.
it's a cluster. That's why that's open. So
Yeah.
this needs to all cluster into that.
Yeah.
Just like this.
So that's one of the 7 clusters we already have?
That's part of Wolf Creek.
Yeah, that's Wolf Creek right now.
Trappers Ridge.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Okay.
That's
Sorry,
why it looks
John.
like it's so dense.
that's actually right here.
Thank you.
This is Browning Ranch.
Oh, okay.
So this is an example of
That's what I
if
thought. I
Browning
just think
Ranch
that
were to
was
cluster.
This is, what you were saying is right there. I
Yeah,
believe.
you're right.
Yeah.
So this is Browning here?
Yeah.
I think so. This is Trappers here. This is you over here.
But see, the beauty of this is this allows Mrs. Browning to sell, and she, she doesn't want to develop this, but eventually she's got to sell if she wants any kind of income. But she can sell that now to the village and get it off this, so everyone can look at that.
And
nice
she's
big-
preserved the property, the rest of it. That's
So
what she wants.
TDRs helps people
Right.
preserve their own place.
I kind of like that idea.
Pretty
The only
graceful
question
stuff
I
that
come
you
up
guys
with-
came up with.
Is can this handle all of this?
Well, now we're back to you. You says I went clear to here. We're back there.
Now
It's
you're
just
back to
taking us
infrastructure.
another 30
That's
minutes.
right.
to
Can
get
it handle
there.
it now? No. Can it handle it in the future with sewer and water? Probably so.
So when you say handle, are we just talking about sewer, water infrastructure, or are we talking about more than that?
Sewer, and that's getting the sewer there. The water's
Yeah, but
gonna be. a
Sewer
different-
water dries it, right? So I mean, those are the driving infrastructure.
I mean,
Everything else can be created.
right, as far as roadway goes and all that, I think you're gonna be fine, generally
Yeah,
speaking.
we're
We've
talking
got
water
some-
and sewer are the two main.
Yeah, they drive it.
Those are the variables we don't know.
I guess the reason I asked the question is that politically palatable? Is that, are you comfortable with that idea of 10,000 units in that cluster of area up there? And nowhere else, for example?
Well,
Well, there's two others that are not
There
in
are.
there.
Yeah, there are,
But
just from a hypothetical perspective.
yeah. Well, I've got the health department coming here. What day did you say? Tomorrow at 3. So the question now is, we have this in front of us. We've had a week to think about it. Do you want to make and take an action right now? Either of you?
I'm there.
Where are you?
Where is there?
where you,
I like the idea of taking all that, but I just don't know. I really want to see that map that has the 10,000 down there, just so I can visualize it. But I
That's what I
like what
wanna
we've
see.
talked about.
but I don't think we have to make a decision on the 10,000. What we have to make a decision today is
That's
No,
right.
and I
is
would-
on that road and what
I
we're
also-
doing with the road and whether we're gonna allow John and Todd to make an agreement here.
And for the record, the 10,000, whatever it is, it was spread out over 7 or so villages.
Right.
Yeah.
We also talked about, maybe certain villages like Nordic might be smaller than Liberty or whatever. And so you might have an 8th village someday pop up in
Well,
something
yeah,
that's.
I mean, and we've
appropriate.
talked about village over on the, village potential on the
Like
south
Huntsville.
side too.
But whether it's 6 or it's 8,
So-
you're clustering.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point, is getting all that purple off the field.
And I don't think anybody's down on the clustering. I just want to make sure before I approve this, that I have clearly in my mind what that cluster is gonna look like, because that's gonna be substantial.
And that, what you mean by that is you want to see this map with those dots in that area. That's what you're saying.
Oh, no, not just the map. I want to know what We'll be able to answer that within a day or two. We'll be able to answer that right now.
Doesn't form-based zoning help mold that?
Yes.
It does.
Yeah, that's-
And we've already,
Give me a week or two, not a day or two, if that's okay.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit that's going to.
yeah,
What is?
because we've already started to identify in Old and Newtown Eden, the village core, and then as we trickle out, how those areas start to articulate and the road structure and the hierarchy. The actual density of that, that's what we need a little bit more time to formulate and get that put together so we can bring that to you in a work session.
But you know,
You can get a better idea.
Just to give you the conceptual idea, the mixed-use commercial area, that's multifamily with retail at the bottom. Okay, then you have multifamily just outside of that. And then you've got single-family, very small, 3,000 square foot lot sizes just outside of that. And then 10,000 square foot lot sizes outside of that, half acre.
and so
1
you
acre,
want 3,000 square foot lots up there? Because that, he just said it, that's what they're looking at.
Let me just say one more thing and I'll shut up, but we're trying to hide, let's say hypothetically, 10,000 doors, right? Wolf Creek has 2,500, just as a comparison.
Right.
So you need to, in 7 villages, you gotta hide, 1,200 things.
Yeah.
So half the size of Wolf Creek in 7 places in the valley. That's what it would take to completely sweep off everything on the valley floor, which won't happen. You'll still get houses here and there.
That's
So you're not really hiding 10, you're probably hiding 6, let's say. That's only 2 Wolf Creeks.
All I know is I don't know is everybody thought about this before they agreed on 10,000, and I'm not sure 10,000's ever been agreed.
Yeah. Well, I don't
I think we agreed on a plan, and you're saying now that the plan said there'll be 10,000. And I just want to make sure before I vote on this that I'm gonna go along with it. It's just that simple.
Well, you're not, the 10,000 exists today, so the only way you decrease the 10,000 is to go in there and say everybody's got, now, you don't have a 3-acre lot, you got a 20-acre lot.
Yeah, and I would
I'm
argue,
not gonna do that.
I'd argue that 10,000 doesn't exist today.
Well, I don't know how, I mean, that's based on current zone.
It's just a map.
Right, it's just.
By right.
So that's just,
Right.
Yeah.
that's
By right zone, how did you come up with that?
That's just what it's zoned.
That's just zoning right now.
Yeah.
Just taking.
One
those
dwelling
on
unit for every 3 acres in the 3 acre zone, one dwelling unit. per
All
every
the way
1
up the
acre, 1 acre zone.
mountainsides and everywhere.
We
You've covered that whole
I
thing.
only did the valley floor. I did
No, that's
cover the
valley
whole
floor.
thing. The number I came up with, the whole thing, you don't want to hear that.
I do.
28,000.
That's where that
28,000.
number I told you the other day came.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that in the zone, in the master plan? Is that mentioned or brought up?
No, we didn't want to scare people.
Well, wait a minute, hang on. It is in the master, it is in the.
It's in the zone.
The
General plan.
plan,
Yeah.
general plan. You guys have differentiated between the valley floor and everything else. And if you went all the way to Evergreen and all the way up to Powder, yeah, you would have that huge number, but we're only talking about the valley floor and it's only
That's
10.
correct.
And every single thing out there has a zone and a density attached to it. So you either take that away from people or accept it. one or
Or
the other.
accepted?
Yeah, the only way you're gonna take off your 10,000. So I've got 90 acres up there. So I could realistically, right now, I've got 30 units. So you know, you're saying, okay, we got a decrease. You're gonna come in and say, okay, you don't have 30 units, you've got 3.
No, I don't want to do that.
So,
I'm
but
not
that's
talking
only,
about
but that, you're saying you want to take away the 10, how else do you do it?
Well, I want,
Because right now I've got my 30 units
What if we said,
that are part of that 10,000.
yeah, I understand.
what if we said you have 30 units, you could build 15 in place? The other 15, you gotta move somewhere.
Well, and I'm just using, I have no intent of doing anything with it, but I'm just saying.
I know.
Thanks, Charlie.
My kids, they
Way to muddy
wanna do
it.
that someday. And they're gonna go, okay, how come you guys just cut my hair?
That's right.
Number one, by 2/3, 15 years ago, now you're gonna come in and take it again by whatever percent, take that down to X number of units. So the solution, in my opinion, has to be the transfer to the village.
And that transfer number could be a little less than 10,000 because we have some of the monastery property that's been retired.
That's-
yeah.
That's
So
correct, too.
That's a number that
Yeah.
needs to be articulated into
Yeah.
this as well.
That was
That's into
about
the land
600.
trust.
You know, a really interesting thing, and you
That's
take
correct too.
Browning Ranch as an example. So once we do this, now we have a number. At least an appraiser can say, oh, it was worth $4,000.
Yeah.
And maybe it's 10 next week, who knows?
Yeah.
But Mrs. Browning now knows how much her TDRs are worth. So if she doesn't sell them, she could sell them in theory to the open space,
The land trust.
to land trust.
Yeah.
And now that CPA can give her a tax write-off because he knows the number of units that you didn't take away from her and how much they're worth, at least the last time somebody traded them. So it does encourage people to be able to get the tax write-off, or gives them the ability to do it if they wanted to.
John and I have had some discussions about the
That's a big
possibility of John taking some of his units and selling them to someone else, but instead of them building it, they do the tax write-off as well.
Turn around and.
Right.
Yeah,
So I mean, there's a
turn around
possibility of
and
getting some
donate.
units
yeah,
expired.
once they have a value,
Yeah.
now you can
Donate.
retire them
Yeah.
and call it, a write-off.
But
Very
none of that
similar
can
to tax
happen until they
credit.
start moving
Right, I
around.
understand.
Exactly.
Hold on.
It's like historic tax credit.
Yeah, it's a
the
tax
same
credit.
thing. It's exactly.
Commissioner Harvey.
I think we're getting, so where I am right now, I just wanna ask you a question here, Rick. When that number 10,000, not 28,000, that number 10,000 was established, that was before the conservation easement over on the monastery. And that was before the conservation easement that was established in that area between Wolf Creek, that big conservation easement that was over there. Then isn't there a conservation
Well,
easement because there's a
His
flood?
10 is math based on today's zoning.
But you have a conservation easement to the east of the golf course.
Yeah, it's the old
Yeah,
one
that's
zone,
how,
that
it
one
went. I
was
mean, Wolf
considered.
Creek
That was
sold
taken
off all that,
into
or
account.
gave it
That
to
one
the
was?
land trust.
But the other, the monastery was
was
not.
That one has.
Which
Okay,
is
I was
600.
just,
That's
because I was gonna
600.
say, by the time we add some of these areas in, we're gonna be down to 8,000 or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It may
that
not
was-
be 10, may,
That was
so,
taken into account, and we're just looking at the valley floor.
right, I
So
got it.
when you say the valley floor, do you look at that as receiving or as ascending?
The only area that's receiving is the village areas.
Okay,
And-
well
and
then,
the
when you
ski
look at the valley floor,
And the ski
how did
resorts.
you come up with 10,000 on the valley floor? Just acreage?
The existing zoning and acreage. And then we excluded the roads.
And then you're
So-
gonna have.
Of the 10
4 acre
versus the
parcels.
28 or the 18, none of those ever gonna be developed?
It'd be really hard to develop.
Very difficult.
Difficult.
They made it so you can't transfer that 18 in.
That's right.
Oh, see, now nobody's ever said that, John. Well, right now, that the 18 could never be transferred.
They just fixed that, so it was a really good.
No,
catch
we
there.
fixed that, last year?
Yeah.
We had one case.
Had
where-
never green
Okay.
transfer in, right?
Correct.
Well, now
we're not starting
this
to
is
fix
coming into focus in my mind. The 10,000 do literally exist pretty solidly.
I mean, it's full build out. If you never change
No, no,
any
I
zone again,
understand.
50, 60 years
How
from now.
many of that 10,000 have already been built over the last 5 years?
So it was 15, now we're down to 10.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's where.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah,
number,
I think
the
you've had
green
five
ones that you
built
saw up there,
since
those are the ones that are
2006.
But,
platted.
you know,
We'll
make
probably see homes
policy
on
that,
most of them.
that encourages people to retire.
Yeah.
You know, Give
Exactly.
them a value that they can write off.
Give it, you know what? I like the idea that incentivize. That's why when you said the value, the 4,000, it gives, for instance, one piece of property out there, very large owner up there, an opportunity to take that value to her CPA, sell those off to the land trust. And then now that's it. That's why I like the idea of moving forward with this deal, taking that. That's where I'm at with it. It encourages areas in the right, because there are people that may have 7, 8, 10, 20, 50 acres. They say, I just want to keep it 50 acres the way it is. I got my one house here. I want to try it, retire off the 47 over there into, and then the land trust, that's exactly what they're trying to do. I like that idea myself.
Well, if you create the market, so you've got a value, just looking around my area up there, I've got a lot of neighbors that don't necessarily want to develop right now, just like us. But when this goes to the next generation, they're gonna look at it a little different than a lot of us. But if you give them the opportunity to say, look, we can take our 30 units and sell that, and then we can keep this original farm or whatever for future generations, then both sides are happy.
Yep.
You've made both, because one side has the money, the other side that wanted to keep the dirt has the dirt, and they can keep farming it.
Yeah.
But you've given them an option now. Right now, if we don't do that and we don't allow TDRs, their only option to maximize their 401k, using your language from the past, which
Right.
a lot of that was the 401k for our farmers up there,
Yeah.
then they don't have a choice but to sell it.
Our
They're
only
gonna
wild,
sell it for maximum value.
and this whole thing is good. My only wild card of the whole thing out, this, what we've been talking about, is the Ogden City. That's in my mind, that's what I've been sitting.
That's-
Well, that's what we said, that is yet to be determined.
So
That's
Ogden
coming
City,
down the road.
they hadn't picked up the property when we did this calculation. So this calculation did play in, or that their value did play into this calculation.
So
It
they're
did
not-
not.
It did.
So their
It did.
number is in here.
Their number is included in that number, yes, and it was about 500.
Because
How
we
many?
looked at
It was about
existing
500.
zoning
We didn't know that till
everywhere.
right now either.
We'd heard between 500 to 600, so.
So here's the tabulation on the right-hand side of the screen, the left-hand side of the
There
screen,
you
that's
go.
the valley floor. And that's zoning. So we just drew the lines on where existing zoning lines are. I don't think we go up to the F5 zone in most places.
So build out units, platted vacant lots in the, on the floor. Approved resort lots. And those are at the, was Nordic Valley included in that?
Nor
Yeah.
that is not.
So really. Okay, anyway, doesn't matter. Approved units in Valley. So is that a total, that 11,625 is a total of that ones above?
And then add 4,000 in on top of that.
So that's total platted is 11,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
Platted or otherwise approved by a development agreement.
Yeah.
And that exists today.
11,625. So think about it, in 2016, we had 3,700 units existing, but we had platted or approved 11,625 units. More than we did
What year was that?
2016.
Wow, that's
More than we
before
did
I got here.
conceptualize.
Yeah.
And we were looking at the roads. I mean, Ogden Canyon's at 95% capacity. Trappers Loop was only at 14% capacity at this time. We're looking at the divide. I can't remember what capacity that was, but it was pretty high.
Yeah.
So if we don't do anything except what was in agreements today, this is where it'll go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Probably beyond all of our lifetimes, but it'll still go there.
yeah, no.
No, it's gonna be a while, but
Some of the houses that
so
are being
the
built
question
today
is,
are
do
gonna
we
be torn
want
down,
to encourage
split out.
transfer to the village area off the valley floor?
Yeah.
And how do we?
I think we
And we
if
do that
there's-
with putting a monetary value.
If
on it.
that's a policy, is it a good
Encourage
policy to
retirement.
transfer from the valley floor to the village areas? Yes or no? And then if so, then what type of regulation do we do in terms of like situations like this? but we've got to start creating that market at some point, or we're gonna be, if we don't create the market, we're gonna have the valley floor covered in whenever.
It's another one of the reasons I would recommend.
Hopefully
looking
I'll
at
be
the
gone,
Ogden
but
City
we'll have
units.
that.
Well,
I hope
so
you're not.
if we allow this to go today, the value has been established. Of course, we're not sure that Todd's gonna accept this still. We just know it's been offered.
No, I thought you had.
No, we've talked it over.
Oh, have you? So you're in agreement.
Yes.
So that means today, at TDR today, we can say we just seen the first one sold with $4,000.
And it's still gonna be based on what someone's willing to pay.
No,
and
I
what someone's willing to
understand,
sell.
but if somebody says, well, what's one of those even worth? We could say, well,
It's got
we
to be
know
$4,000.
of some that were just. sold
Some
for
dude just
4,000.
got them for 4.
Ogden City was
Place to
looking at,
start.
Ogden City was looking at about
Yeah, and
5,000
it is a
each.
start.
He might resell those for 8, or he might take 1,500, who knows?
Yeah.
But the only receiving areas today is for accessory dwelling units.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well,
today.
other than the village area.
Not
course.
yet, because the village areas haven't been
Oh, that's
zoned.
because that's.
Yeah,
They haven't
but
been
John,
zoned.
you know, he's betting on the come here, and I understand that bet. He's betting that if he holds them, that we'll get around to that, and it'll be done, and someday that
Yeah.
there will be more value there.
I mean, if we're gonna make this work, sooner or later, we have to then do the zone for these village areas to finish off, or we're just
That's right.
We're just
Exactly.
playing a game.
Yeah.
We just need like a little development agreement for us that just says,
Sure.
when you get around to finishing the village zone, we're allowed to move to that zone and nowhere else.
Do you have any property that you could zone
Yeah.
to the village zone?
We do.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, we do. That's right. Good.
Well, everything up there where you're at is in a village zone, isn't it?
We haven't finished the Wolf Creek yet, but we're working on it.
I thought that was one of the village zones,
It is
so-
one of
It
those.
is.
That's one of the
Yeah.
ones there, yeah.
so
One
it
of the
doesn't
seven.
matter what you're
We've got a
doing.
place to put it.
Sure, you got a place to put it in.
So I mean, that's the question. Is it smarter for them to go over in Wolf Creek where you've already got density?
Yeah?
Or would you rather have them on the mountainside or on Todd's
No,
property?
the real question is, are you willing to approve this today? My point is, I'm probably a yes vote now. After this hour and a half long discussion, I'm sorry it's taken that long. But it's taken me that long to get it square in my
So
mind. where I'm willing to
remind me
go.
again what we want to approve, that just the transfer
Just the
allow that
transfer.
with the road agreement.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with
we're,
the road.
we'll pick up, and the only other thing I would add to we'll pick up the cost of the road, which I think Gary came in.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
we have
about
to amend that
360
agreement,
-ish.
and then we have to
So what I
figure out
would
what parcel they're talking about. and
additionally
get them to
ask is, can we make a max on of say 400? Like if everything goes out of whack and oil goes through the roof, or,
Yeah,
you know, I don't want to be on the hook for 800. But,
Sure.
but we could say instead of 370, maybe it's as much as 400. I mean,
How
hopefully
does
it's not
that
that
jive
much.
with your numbers, Gary?
That's probably not far off.
so in this, the county's pulling our 100 grand out,
Yep.
Pulling it off the table.
Yeah,
but that would still be there if it went crazy. We could
Yeah.
draw it back in.
it
Yeah.
should, but we'll go a little higher if we have to. And all we want is a piece of paper saying someday when Charlie's ready, we can move this density to a village.
It's gonna say exactly that.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. And what is
Oh,
that?
get ready to
retire.
Charlie, what is that density number? I want to be exact here so everybody knows
This parcel,
that he's gonna purchase.
Yeah.
And be allowed to transfer.
We talked about 40.
I think we said 66. and He
Was
took
it?
10
No,
off.
no,
He took 10 off, so it went to
It's-
50.
no. I thought it was 43.
No, it's
6.8 acreage, because we're about 3 1/4 acres or so.
Well, it's
So it comes
Do
out
I
to
hear
66.
76?
It's the density
I
of
like
it.
that.
How's your
I
chance
like
to
Here's
get
the
there?
best auctioneer here.
So Portland.
Yeah.
What's the density for that zone? 20?
It was up to 20 and we were talking, wasn't it like a 3.22?
Yeah, so it's 20 times 3.22.
So it was,
It's a math
the
problem.
number I remember was 66. but I-
Oh, we have a winner.
I haven't verified that. I have to do a subtract road area from that. I don't know. So,
not stuff that's not actually built.
So there's a quantifiable legal definition of
Sure.
density on that
Right.
parcel of
Yes.
66. He's using 10, so we're suggesting 56.
Now, if we take 10% of that off for roads,
They don't do
50.
that on that parcel.
64. So 54.
54
3.22.
minus roads.
Well, and that's 3.22. This
Yeah,
may
they
not be
argued that
survey
the roads
accurate,
didn't
so
exist here
it's
because of the
survey says-
hotel.
There is
a
that
survey
zoning,
in
you don't
the,
take off for roads,
agreement.
because it's
It's like 3
commercial.
points.
Right.
You're doing a residential.
This is how many,
So
this
if
is
you
how
were to
many.
tell me how
PDRs.
many units I have to
Mhm.
work with, you'd be
I'm
telling me
good at that.
54. 54?
Yeah, and on this, it's all private streets anyway.
56.
Everything is platted to the center of that private drive.
No, I
You're
get
right.
it. No,
Yeah,
I
so
get
the
it.
Streets wouldn't come out at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Put out a
I don't think
number.
I'm gonna do it.
So
You're gonna go
20
with
times
54.
3.2, 66 minus the 10,
So what?
That gives us the,
56.
What about 50?
now, I'm seeing 54, but I hear
Yeah,
that
I
the
don't
survey
like that
shows a
haircut.
little bit of a different
Yeah,
number.
maybe,
So you're
yeah.
right.
Make a
It's-
motion.
We'll do the math based on that.
And, you know, we're putting out hundreds of thousands of dollars here, so we really are requesting the 56. Just simply because that's
54.
what the zone currently says. Whatever Charlie says it is.
Yeah, 54.
That's fine.
You okay, Commissioner Harvey?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that that number be 54.
Okay, there's a motion.
That's what you're looking for, isn't it?
Huh?
Okay, then, let's get things going.
I'm a little more comfortable with 50.
Listen, I'm just trying to give him a maraschino cherry here.
You're putting the cherry on top of that ice cream, I could tell.
Well, you
With a little
know-
whipped cream.
So is there a second?
I'll second it.
We could get some hot dogs Sundays.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. All fair say aye.
Aye.
No. Okay, pass. Bingo, you got him, John.
Hey, you have TDRs now.
We do.
PDRs.
We established a lot.
Before you units, I wasn't gonna die.
Yeah. Well, I voted for 50, but not 54. That's okay.
Oh,
That
Judas.
close. It's okay. I'm not gonna die here over 4 units. So, divide that out now, because that changes the valuation. We reviewed those valuations of 4,000 apiece, but that was based on a different number.
So you're taking roughly
Yeah.
400,000,
I'm not
right?
sure what the number would be. I'll work with John on that.
Well, take,
Or you might even
What's
say
the road
370
value?
just 'cause we're
Roughly about
higher.
360.
take 360 and divide it by 54.
We said up to 400 though, so
Yeah, let- we better
Okay,
use
go
400.
400.
by 54.
7,400.
7,400. So, you know, 6,000, 7,000.
So that sets the,
That tells where they're at today.
$7,500 a piece? Is that what they are?
Yeah, 7,400.
7,400.
That seems like a pretty good,
So that's.
Place to set the market.
That's probably in the ballgame for some
Chair
people.
Jenkins,
Yeah.
do you mind if we ask legal a question?
I don't think.
No, go ahead. Why we brought him in
Are
here.
we gonna need to now amend the development agreement in order for this to actually be set in stone? Because right now, the development agreement specifies 10 rights. And if we're wanting to add these transfer of development rights to the development, to this area, would we need to do it through a development agreement?
Okay.
We can talk about the best way to do that. Because right now, it does say that, but it's unclear on what would happen if it terminated. And so if we want to spell that out a little more. clearly, we could have that.
You guys be comfortable with the different development agreement? I noticed a couple other small areas too that we probably want to correct as we were making the adjustments to 10 instead of 13.
I seen all
Okay.
done.
We'll work through it.
Small, but then,
Okay. And then, John, we gotta figure out which parcel we're talking about.
We're gonna try to get together tomorrow, or when you open, let's talk about that.
Yeah, we should set up a meeting.
That's why.
We'll have to talk to you about it,
That's why I was saying.
All right, everybody, is there anything left to be discussed in this meeting? All right. Thank you.
Talk to you after.
Yes, Todd?
Testing.
Go get it. There you go.
Thank you.
All right.
So much more red tape.
Todd?
Thank you.
It all works out.
So, Rick,
It all works itself out.
we want to make sure that we put this in writing, so there's no.
Yeah, that's where I asked legal if we need to do a development agreement amendment.
Yeah.
And
What do you think?
we're gonna look into that. It looks like
Eric,
most likely we'll need to.
Yeah.
So we have to come before you. and that's just
Like about a.
Wow.
But I think we still need to have that discussion. If you, I mean, we're kind of backed into the corner on this.
All right, well, they are.
But I think for the future, we could say, look, whatever
curious
My
about
opinion is if you're
the
gonna
meeting with the
transfer
health department
You should do
tomorrow.
it before you record that plat, so we don't get. put in
Just
this
because I've had,
position.
yeah, so
agree
many
with that.
interactions recently with the state.
I agree with that. When
Our
the
state
plat
rep,
is
he's trying to put
recorded,
together a
it's
meeting
done.
to get everyone on the same page.
See, so
Because
what's
we've got
gonna
some
happen
big
now, is he's
legislative
gonna walk in right
barriers.
now and say, okay, what about mine? They're recorded.
Okay.
Yeah, well, you can check. I think John's already got the transfer.
Yeah, he did.
Okay, I was just curious about the meeting with the health department tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
If that's something that we could be involved in. We've had a lot of interactions recently with the state.
I don't know if you need to be here, but I'd get on Zoom if I should.
Okay.
So you can listen to it.
Okay. And
I'll make
just
sure that
see-
that's up on the Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay?
See, that's what we gotta do.
Representative Waldrop just sent out a request for a meeting to get DEQ.
Now, what's
Health
Walter
Department.
doing?
I don't like the idea of.
Good hell. I mean, he's nobody now. Waldrop is nothing.
Yeah. He's just trying to solve the legislative issue we have with sewer up there.
I mean.
Yeah,
There's a
Walter,
big
all
problem.
he's
We
gonna do is
approve it
screw
based
things
on
up.
28, not on 90. Right.
All right,
Well,
well,
we've got a plan coming, or a meeting coming down to get, we've not been invited to yet, but you will be.
Mr. Walden, thanks for coming. Yeah, that's why we have.
sounds good.
I want to sit on the next.
Yeah, you're
Yeah,
welcome
when
to.
somebody
Thank
records
you
that
very much.
plat-
Hey, thanks.
Yeah.
Good seeing you.
Greg, these are pretty interesting.
That's where I'm
aren't they?
coming from. Once that plat's recorded.
Once you learn a little more about what's done,
You're
the
right,
law's
Jeff.
already said.
Don't come back
it's
to us
there.
again.
It's
I agree with
interesting.
that. So, but I'm telling you, you're gonna have people arguing. Well,
Yeah. Great to learn.
we need to have that discussion, Gage,
Yeah, no, I think it's important. And
because
now somebody hasn't, I think this is good for the future to make sure that we say, look, we've set now kind of this, we've set the market, started the market for development rights. So the Brownings, whoever could say, look, I can get 7,500, I'm gonna transfer those to the land trust, take my tax write-off, or I'm gonna go out and find somebody like John to buy them from me, and I'm good to go.
yeah. We at least know where they're at.
Then his property's into perpetuity.
Boy, you learned something today?
What a great win for the land.
You can see, it's not easy
The land
getting
trust.
these people in here and negotiating all this, is it?
All.
I'm saying, every jurisdiction is different.
Yeah,
Land development goes to work every day, there's something new every day.
every day. So are you retired now?
I'm retired, but still consulting.
So we'll
Yeah.
get Jamie. Scott.
What was your, were you an
Me
attorney?
and Bill.
No, I worked with land development for
Well, now
40
it's
years
Christian.
Okay.
in Virginia,
Yeah,
Colorado.
Okay, well, you understand that, you got the idea.
Yeah.
Well, here we go.
Hey, Gage,
Send me some contact.
I'll just say to you.
Okay, we'll get it set up.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's just taking it all in, Gage.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that couldn't believe we do this all the time. All right, Sheriff. You're up. We're a little late. We apologize for coming in,
Sorry, it's okay.
but the floor is yours.
All right. I brought 2 ringers with me.
Yeah?
Oh, wow, good for you. I love your hairdos. So you guys go. Nice.
Yes, it's real nice. Becoming more and more natural. All right.
That was a good meeting at your place last week.
I'll say, thank you
Yeah,
so
thank
much.
you.
It was good.
One of the reasons that we do stuff like that is we understand a lot of people only see, or excuse me, only hear what I have to say and what you guys have to say. So we want to show them what the money went to and why we needed it. And, as you guys know, in government, it's the police or the fire department that gets all the money and
Yeah.
but hey, this is what it's for and why it's needed. And this is why we did it together. And so
Yeah.
we had a lot of positive
It's
comments
important
about
that
it.
people understand it.
They do. All right, thank you. This discussion that I have is, I did a little research and I know that there's a plan with the county on capital projects and so forth. And so 2 years ago, as you guys know, we started talking about the mental health and pods and some other stuff. And we've worked COVID, we got a little bit snagged and slowed up. And so looking at the process of this is we were wanting to get a decision and I'm okay to wait on this decision from you guys. But I know that there's steps within it to get to make a decision. I'm wondering if we could take a little sooner rather than later. For example, I know to complete your 5-year plan and some other things got to be in place, and it may be pushed off for another month and a half, 2 months, somewhere 3 months maybe. But the finance group that would be need to put together for our possible geo bond thing takes 30 to 45 days. Now, if we wait till August, then I have to have a signed document from you guys, and by August 25th is the cutoff date to go, and that won't work. If we bring it back a month,
Put it on the ballot.
yes, it's 75 days before election. So if
And you want to put it on the ballot this year?
we would love to. And this is something we go on, and I know that there's a lot of priorities, there's a lot of things going on, and I don't want to come at this as a bull-like attitude, but we're starting to get a lot more pressure from the courts and also from the chiefs about expansion. And so keep in mind that from what I'm told, if a general obligation bond is every 2 years and we don't do it this year, then it's 2 years from now, from another 2 years, and it's going to take a 2 to 3 years to build out because of
Why every 2 years?
that's what I was told.
By who?
General elections. It only happens general obligation bond. That could be wrong. It could be every year. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I've never heard that.
That's surprising.
It's a general, as I understand, a general election would happen. You'd have to be like any November election. A general election wouldn't just be on the even years. It also happens on the odd years as well. That's how I
It
understand.
just can't be like a
It
primary.
can't be a special
It can't be
election.
midterm or
Right.
special election.
Yeah,
Okay.
it can't be midterm or special.
That's how
So we can
that's
do
how
it.
I see it.
Every year?
Okay, so either scenario, if we were to get it past this year, then we hopefully start building the next year in the calendar year of next year. But the facilities that we're proposing are going to take at least 2 to 3 years to build out. So by the time we already need the space, but it's going to take longer. But if every year we move on, it's going to be that much more. So if the finance committee takes 30 to 45 days, then, that's something that we probably ought to maybe consider doing now, because I need public relation time to really push this. But I don't, if you guys need longer time to decide,
Why does
I'm
the
okay with
finance
that.
committee take 30 to 45 days?
I learned that from Scott Park and John Bond. Because they got to get stuff together, and there's the
state statute says.
Not everything they do now.
I'm just telling you, the way I understand it is state statute requires, I think it's just notification of public 75 days out that you're gonna go, you have an intent to do this. I
Yeah.
think it's just the notice to the state is
Yes.
75 days.
That we're gonna do
before
that we're gonna put a geo bond on the.
And
Yes.
that makes it probably around the 20th of August.
25th, to be exact.
25th of August.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when Scott Park and John Bond say 30 to 45 days, they're just saying it'll take them that long to gather the information they want to look at.
And I've seen the books of the bonds, they're this thick, and it's a process. But I also, I want to make sure I'm very clear here. This is something we all need to do together, but I don't want to, if we're waiting on decision things to happen, but if we wait this long, then that's going to be impossible to have it ready for this election. But if it's
Right.
like, we're not doing it this election, then these are things I need to know and plan
Then he
for.
just needs to be told.
Right. And I do have a request, and I don't want you guys blindsided, but some of the chiefs want to come visit with you. And so do some of the judges, or at least one judge from the court, about Kiesel facility, pods, and the medical mental health wing. And I don't want to just come in here and blindside you, but they would like to maybe schedule a time to talk about this.
I'm okay with that.
You're the chair.
I don't
I'm
see a
okay with
problem.
that.
Okay,
Have him come in a work session as far
Yes.
as I'm concerned.
we'll try and
Yeah,
do
we'll put 'em
that.
on a work session.
Yes.
Well, we got it clear. So when you say we're gonna go out for a geo bond, what's your idea with the geo bonds? It'll be 65 million, it'll be 30 million, or where in
Okay,
the middle is that gonna fit in? And what are we gonna get out of that bond?
so I'm only giving you what I've learned so far. And so let's say that the county decides to pay for this through funds that are created through a general obligation bond. Well, if we go that route, there's the process and steps to go through, which I just illustrated. The other options is the county's just going to pay for it with the money that they have, which I don't think the county can just flip out 65 million. I just don't think that's there. Or there's right. And so I've told that there's 2 or 3 ways to fund this, but because of the size of the project, then they would probably need, or the best route would be the general obligation bond. And so if that happens, then there is a process where it goes through a financial committee. They figure, okay, here's the best way to fund it. Here's our interest rate. Here's our terms and conditions. And that takes 30 to 45 days.
This is the guys getting all the bond councils and everything
Yes.
lined up and find out what the interest rate would be, what the amount per household, per unit number, all that other stuff would be. That'd be my guess.
So
Is that right?
Well, I guess my question, so I mean, we've talked about the Kiesel, we've talked about
yes,
the receiving center out there, or we've talked about a new
Yes.
pod and the mill. We've
yes,
actually talked about 4 different potential projects.
yeah. Well, yeah, right. So redoing the Kiesel or just
Yeah.
doing a new one. So yeah, it could be up to 5 too, if you want to count the pods separately. So
Yeah,
yes.
I'm just trying to get a feel for, are we looking for all 4? Are we looking for 2?
So,
3?
so we did the feasibility study, and the study made a recommendation. We feel that the proper way is to do what the feasibility study says about medical mental health wing, 2 pods, and also building a new Kiesel because of the long-term cost savings. However, I thought an idea with Commissioner Jenkins, you had this other group come in and look. I think it's a great idea as well. But either way, if we give the financial committee the targets, they can start doing it, and that can just sit in waiting. And then when the decision is proper and timely, we can just say, well, this is what we're going to do. But I've got to have PR time to get the public on time, because I can't go there and we've done a little in the paper and stuff where people have asked us, well, is this true? Because when we got the money to do the feasibility study, that's when conversations started generating. And we wanted to get ahead of it, rather than let it go rogue. And so we just,
The receiving area that is funded at the McCady Hospital, does that have any connection directly to the sheriff?
no, not, you talking about Kevin Eastman's deal?
Yeah.
So as far as jail operation, no. The reason for the receiving center is to deter people like, no offense, Sean, but let's say Sean's going through a mental episode and the cops are called. So when cops are called, you're asking someone that has a specific set of skills and experience, and then you enter this mental health type that Sean really needs to deal with. Then we have MCOT, but MCOT can only provide so much. And then for us, it's jail, or we just let them go. The idea of the receiving centers, those that are in that crisis, they get the care now, not come next Monday.
I know.
And so to divert people from coming to the jail.
All that's understandable.
Yeah.
So the question I have is then, why do you need a more medical wing out there? I kind of thought your medical wing out there expansion that you needed was really to involve your capacity to handle some of these kind of folks that you didn't have in the past.
So the receiving center is designed for those that are misdemeanor crimes, not the felony.
Right.
Not, so if you do, sorry, Sean. So if Sean is having a mental situation and he commits a felony, yes, that's what we have. If they're sentenced to a period of time in jail, that's what that's for. This is more of a prevention method than it is.
Keep them out of, yeah.
Yes.
Keep them out of hard.
I didn't realize there was a felony misdemeanor division there.
Well, I mean, so misdemeanor, let's say.
The misdemeanor is the one we saw in Davis
I
County.
understand, you don't need to
Yes.
go into all this.
No, sorry.
I'm just saying, I didn't realize that there was a division there.
Oh, yeah. So if Sean committed a felony, he wouldn't go there.
Yeah.
He would go to our place. Then we're obligated to provide those services.
Wow.
So Are you looking for a decision from us today as far as timing, or what are you looking for? Sheriff?
My idea is if we are, or if we're not, I think it might be a good idea for us to start this committee and just see what our options are. To me, it doesn't say yes, and it doesn't say no either. It's just like when, some of us here want to go buy a car. Before we decide to buy the car, we call Golden West, America First, Bank of John, see what our options are. I kind of would like to do that. So when you guys, if we can come to a decision, meaning the county commission, let's say it's not till July, for example, the decision is not, okay, let's go ahead and do this, but let's see what the financing. So we get push. I can't do the PR because what if the financing's no good? Or it's not going to work, or part of that committee, as I explained, it may say, well, let's take a portion of the county money or none of the county money. Just what are our options? That's how I'm looking at it. And
I'm not opposed to going through that process. I'll tell you where I think this will force us into looking. We've been saving a fair amount of money.
Yeah.
And we've done that with the concept of addressing some of these projects we've had. And the sheriff wasn't even in the queue till a year ago.
That's true.
And so all of a sudden now, we've got to decide if we are willing to do that or not willing to do that, and where he lines up, because this will determine what size of a bond. And if we go out for a $50 or $60 million bond, I mean, that's a tough bond to sell.
It is.
If we go out for a $30 million bond, that's not. And so,
but
that's what this is going to come down to.
But I also want you guys to know that I understand business to some extent, where when it comes to the selling part of it, I want to make it very clear that this is a public safety issue and that the data shows this, and this is what we believe the county needs, not what Gage 4 wants, not what Commissioner Jenkins wants, not what Harvey wants, not what I want. But if we give it to the public for them to decide, and if they say no, we'll go back and deal and take what we've got and keep continuing the best we can. But I don't want to make sure that this is not in any part of this is not your decision or my decision that we want this, that this is something, hey, we need this, but we want to leave it to other people to help us make that decision.
Well, there's the political side of this. It's like, boy, in an election year, you don't go out for a bond.
Well, and that's the thing that I want to make sure is
You happen to be in a pretty good position.
No, I get all that, and I've had discussions about this, but I want to make it clear that if we do the financial process, that doesn't change anything politically, in my opinion. It doesn't mean we're doing it, doesn't mean we're just seeing what our options are.
Yeah.
Well, I have no problem getting this to the finance committee. We're gonna have some discussion here the next couple of 3 days on this building, and so I think it's fair that committee, if you look at the projects right now, I think wasn't there 5 or 6 potential projects on that list?
Yes.
If you add everything up, it far exceeded our cash ability.
Correct.
So I don't think the timing's not bad to get in front of that committee, because we'll have some decisions to make on this building
Right.
in the very near future, like in
And
the next 3 weeks.
the other thing that, and again, I have no background in finance, I'm not any of that, but sometimes when you go for a loan, instead of making a loan for like the jail, or a car and a motorcycle, you do 2 separate ones. Sometimes it's better to combine both of them.
Yeah.
Right. And maybe that's the finance committee can look too, is maybe it's good to do our project and the other projects that are out there. I don't know.
Well, that's why we need to look at all the projects on that list and then have a decision made, which ones really are the top priority. And then, how much cash we've got, how much we can give to the public safety, how much we can give to Sean's group, whatever.
Right.
The whole scenario.
And finally, is I want to leave a thought with this, is if this is not the year to do it, I'm okay with that. I just want to know.
Yeah.
So we can stop our momentum. But if it is the time, then I think there's a timing of things that we don't say, yeah, look, so I don't want you guys to say, okay, we're gonna support you and it's August 1. Well, there's just no way it's gonna be on that ballot. Just can't do it.
This is not a bad request. You're right, we're gonna go there. Now's the time to be talking about it, not in July or August.
No, I agree.
But yeah, and I just thank you, but yeah, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page and we're working together,
Any
not
questions?
independent.
No, I appreciate the respect you helping us through. It'll all work itself.
Well, that capital projects meeting, I don't think you were there, Harvey, but I know
I
Flor
think it
and
was just, you
Jenkins had
there?
most of it. But I recognize, and I want you guys to know this too, that when Marty comes here and says, we need so much, 4 or 6 or whatever $1 million, the sports programs and stuff like that, they are dang near just as important as law enforcement because it's about building a community, keeps people out of trouble, and we building strong society. So I'm not saying mine's any more important than others, but I know there's a value in all the stuff that you're being presented with, that they carry weight. It's important.
It's a good thing.
It is.
I have a question for you.
Yes,
Out of left field. Ready?
swing.
How's the patrol division coming?
Only down 8 or 9 from what we were.
You were gonna do didn't you enact you had requested some additional officers for for speed control or for,
So the traffic
division,
division is
that's
just
it.
about, we put letters, we had to get a certain staffing level, we hit it. And we did the street crimes. We want to do a street crimes report. It's awesome. Street crimes is just
is this what the drones kind of help them with too, some of the street crime? a little bit?
somewhat. We've got some good stuff. Kyle, you guys that requested Kyle Nordfors come in and talk about drones with us. We got that company with the vehicle. They're coming out in 3 weeks. We want to show you guys that. Then we want to do a good presentation on drones and how they're working with every one of the divisions, including the jail search and rescue, emergency management, and patrol or enforcement. And so those 8 positions, we got the street crimes unit. They're already asking for another one. And actually AP&P wants to join us.
Really?
Oh, yeah. No additional cost, no nothing. They're seeing some value in that. And then the traffic division was open, which sent in a letter of interest. So that hopefully will be starting any day now. So there's a lot of good stuff going on right now. And so,
Wonderful.
yes, thank you for asking.
All right, so what we'll do then, we will put you on next week's agenda. You said they want to come in and talk to us. Who is they?
It would be up to 3 judges from the 2nd District Court and also maybe some chiefs.
Is this something where you want to go out and set the time to come in, or do you want me to have them call you? Or
I will
What do you
find
wanna
out
do?
who wants to come because they've had
Okay.
requests, and then I'll get with Shelley.
Shelley?
Yeah, I'll take care of all that.
That's good. All right.
Yes.
So we'll
We
listen to
won't
that
worry
next
about
week
it
then.
then. Great. All
Okay.
right, Sheriff.
Good.
Thank you.
Mike,
Thank you. We appreciate you coming in.
All right.
Thanks,
All
Frank.
right,
thanks, Ryan.
You bet.
I gotta go ahead and head now. So Sean, you'll get
Yeah, I'll get the rest
the
of them
next
here for the
group
next.
yours.
Yep,
North Ogden Divide? Wow.
yes, just an update.
Nice.
Pause.
There they are. Come on in.
Hey, I want to visit.
A change order for you.
Oh, Judah. All right, everybody, we're back. I'll go bridge there now.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, whatever you want. A no cost change order.
Oh, okay. Starting to sound better all the time.
Yeah. So, this is on the North Ogden Divide Overlay Project. We put it through processing, got our bid returns.
You've
Brought
awarded it.
the contract through to commission meeting. In that meeting, you may remember it was February 15th. There was a little hiccup because it had not made it through Cortland yet. I think, did Chris Crockett bring that up?
Oh, here we go.
Anyway, so there were some modifications that we needed to make to the contract. Just to clear things up, spell things out, just make the contract crystal clear for if we ever go back to it in the future. And when we reached out to Granite, the contractor, to see how to make this happen, they ended up saying, well, can we do it through a change order instead of revising the original contract?
At the request of their attorneys.
Okay, understand.
So that's what this is. This change order is to,
In effect, what does it do?
it
Basically references other documents and studies that existed that provided information about the divide. So if
Okay,
you
nothing
remember,
more than that.
Yeah, it's just, we changed we added in some contract documents that explain why the bid
Yeah.
totals were the way they were.
Okay, I don't have a problem with
It's
this.
all language
Yeah.
type stuff that, if Cortland sleeps better at night, then I sleep better at night.
Yeah, so really the concern I had with the original document had to do with the fact that it was unclear, kind of inconsistent in how it talked about the contract total. And then it said in there, the county does not have this, and the county does not have this, when we really did have some of those
Oh.
documents, which really
Yeah.
don't matter, except for the fact that the contract said we didn't have them, and that
Which wasn't true.
makes me nervous, yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's basically it.
So what we're proposing, what I'm proposing is that it is now made a legal review, which was a condition of your approval in the county commission meeting. So I'd ask that you sign the original contract and sign the change order. That does not affect the schedule or cost of the project.
I'm good. Yeah, oh, makes sense to me.
Hey, I'm good too. There you go.
Okay,
This does not need to go back on the commission agenda. Is that correct?
we usually do take change orders through.
Oh, the change order.
yeah,
You're right,
usually we
you're right.
do. And they're usually,
Well, I'm glad to sign it. Don't,
I was gonna say-
well agreed on it.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
we've
Yeah.
talked about it now, so if it comes as a change order, we got it down.
Do we
Okay.
do you ever put change orders on consent items?
Yeah, they usually are.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
There we go.
So we will be having a pre-construction meeting soon. Anticipate work beginning early June.
and just as an update to that, I had some conversations with both UDOT and Granite Construction today. Our project is scheduled to begin on the 6th of June. So as of the 6th of June, you'll see the North Ogden Divide shut down for. a
6th of
month.
June,
Yes, sir.
for how long?
For a month.
Okay.
Now, keep that in mind because before and after, UDOT is doing a little bit of cleanup work on that bridge they did in the canyon. You've probably driven the canyon recently and it's pretty rough
Oh, it's,
on each side of
I
that
get,
bridge.
I get a couple emails a week on it.
You're gonna have
Why
this
is that
done
road
by
so
the
bad?
4th of July weekend?
So they pushed me to move ours and I said, absolutely not. We've moved ours so many times. I've awarded it. And they said, well, we have subs to schedule. I said, too bad. Our subs are already scheduled. We've moved it. And thankfully, the UDOT PM actually got on the call and backed me up. He says, no, he says, we need to honor the county and protect them. We will move ours accordingly. They were
So
very
the
aware
question
of the
is, will it
fourth.
be done by 4th of July weekend?
It all depends on weather, because keep in mind, what they need to do is asphalt. And weather is really touchy there, because it's that temperature window to pave that they're concerned about in the canyon where the sun affects it.
So when do you think this will go? The 6th of June through the,
Well,
give me a spitball.
End of June.
we've told people the whole month of June, the divide shut down. Now, the reality of it is, mute me, don't quote me on this, whatever, they'll probably finish it quicker. But we've told people the divide is shut down for the month.
Listen,
Yeah.
that's great, but we
I-
just need to
I'm
make
gonna
sure
do
we
that.
message it. I've already sent a message to Lindsay on those dates.
Yeah.
No,
Good.
Yeah.
just
So
figure
we'll
the month
get
of
that
June,
out
you
to help.
can't use it. Yeah.
Because it's so much
You'll
easier to
agree
go
with that?
back with good news, we're opening it sooner
Yeah.
than bad news that we're keeping it shut.
I would rather do that than say month of June and then, mid-July, we'll have it closed.
So back to Sean's question on the 4th of July with the canyon, it all will depend on weather and how soon they can they have to order those lights that shut down the traffic to one way. You remember, you
yeah.
saw those last time, kind of the overhead
Are
temporary.
you talking about the bridge stuff by
Yes.
July 4th?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
not
no.
not the divide.
I'm talking to the divide.
Oh, the divide will be done. Divide should be done.
The
By
divide's
by that
06
weekend.
June through the 1st of July.
So what do we have to do with the canyon? That's not our project.
I'm just telling you about what to expect traffic wise and complaints.
We just coordinate.
You'll hear about
We
it.
try and make sure we don't
Okay.
shut down both at the same time.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Especially on a holiday weekend.
Especially on a holiday.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
All right,
just a quick update on that is all that was.
great.
So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
gentlemen.
You
gentlemen.
bet.
Don, why don't you stay here for a minute?
Well,
Yeah, I'm here for the ARPA discussion, so.
for our work session, Mr. Chair, motion to adjourn.
Uh-huh,
Second,
all fair side.
Aye.
We are adjourned, everybody. Thank you.
do you have anybody left?